All right, pants are off.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
I
guys.
hope you got the temperature turned up.
All
there's
right,
one Rose. Hi,
I've
Donna.
taken my pumps off. It's much more comfortable now in bare feet.
Yeah, the pumps are they're pretty painful on the old feet there.
I know. Tell me about it. Let's see.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm looking at notes here.
I'm getting the sound effect ready for Nick's reading of notes.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when we can all have a little snooze.
Yeah, it's like, what? Are we still here? We still
Where are
still
we?
online?
What's
Okay.
EAS? Is it equivalent?
Oh, the
EAS?
Association of Electrical something.
Yeah. Well,
What are you talking about? No, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about a type of airspeed.
Altitude notes. Is his notes about the altitude?
AES?
For a given EAS, Echo Alpha Sierra.
Well, I know IAS is indicated airspeed. What would
Yeah.
Estimated airspeed?
Effective? I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
Effervescent airspeed?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Elephant.
It's when you're drinking champagne.
It's elephant airspeed, but it was only used with Dumbo. And
right, when his ears were flapping, depended on how his
it was the KES. Yes.
And we haven't been drinking yet. Oh boy. Well, maybe Nick has been. I don't know.
No, I'm not. I'm cutting down now, so I'm only starting when we start the show.
Yeah, and I'm having iced tea, so
I'm drinking my LaCroix.
Hey, brilliant.
I think that's the way you pronounce it in French, right?
Yeah, no,
it's not even French. It's in Wisconsin, I think.
But it is French because the French explorers named it.
Yeah, they had something to do with it at some point. The French Canadians.
It means the cross.
The river crosses there, or you cross the river there, or something. Anyway, this version. I know. Nick, come on, Camacho Man. When I was there for our recording a few weeks back, and when I did my great Kansas trip,
excuse me. IL has the answer for you. Equivalent airspeed.
Yeah, that's right. We threw lots out. That was amongst one of the things we threw out. Thank you, IL.
Equivalent. Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
I think I said
Jeff,
that.
you were saying?
So anyway, when I was over at Nick Camacho's, he had some of these. It's called the limoncello flavor.
Yes.
They're really good. Really good.
Is it lemonier than the regular lemon?
Yeah. Well, it's more of a. It's kind of more of a softer. It's not like an astringent tart lemon. It's more of a like limoncello is kind of a smooth, almost like a sherbet.
I must look it out. Look, I think it's one of their new flavors.
Yeah, it is, and it's really good. So, 0 calories, 0 sweetener, 0 sodium equals innocent. It's an innocent drink.
All right.
Okay, EL, here's your next question. VIMD. It's velocity something minimum drag. So what's the I mean?
Indicated? No, indicated. No.
See how quickly you can Google it. I should have done this before the show because I should really try and summarize about 10 pages here. Induced. Oh, okay. Well done, Plain Safety Podcast.
Oh, there's Pip. Pip earned some APG.
Induced minimum drag. What's the significance of 1.32 VIMD?
Don't know, don't care.
This is getting boring.
It's going to get a lot more boring, I promise you.
Hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
If I had one, I'd hold on.
Okay, let's see here. I put the Coffee Fund thing right. Oh, I put it in a bad place before the end of the plain tales segment. Okay, here we go. Right after the plain tales slides.
Yeah, got it. Right before
Okay.
the news. I see it.
Yeah.
I'll find it. I
So
usually put it.
specific fuel consumption is fuel consumption over thrust. That's good, isn't it?
Where's last week's cover art?
Oh, probably should put that in there too.
Because I usually put that right near the.
Oh,
plane.
okay. Okay. I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, let me put that right below that. Here, let me move it. It is, well, I can't get my screen to move.
Oh, that's a good bit.
The ladies you met up with in White Plains are here in the chat tonight.
Oh,
Jeff, Donna and Felicity are both here.
hello, Donna and Felicity.
Hi, all well boxes.
Hi.
Felicity and Donna.
Now,
Eyal, Mike Kuipers, and I think, oh, look at that. Plane Safety Podcast.
Range flying.
and
So, Pip, how's the new jet working out? Still liking it, or are you missing the lemon?
speaking of limoncello,
Yeah. I haul boxes.
no idea what
From
you're talking about.
one place.
You sounded good. Could be anything. Oh, so Pip was just winging it there. Zoe
Oh,
says.
good one. It sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, well.
That's the key to
Appearances can be deceiving.
that's the key to a successful podcast host. You have to sound like you know what you're talking about
Just look confident,
when you
right?
don't. Yeah, we have no idea.
And hope that this doesn't get put on the screen.
And hope that this doesn't get put on the air.
No, that this doesn't get put on the screen.
Oh, the below 50%. Yes.
Yeah.
We're pretty much hovering right at that point most of the show.
Yeah, always hovering. He's loving the jet. Thanks for asking. Pip is loving his new jet.
Oh,
Excellent.
excellent. Well done, Pip. Brilliant.
So, Nick, are you ready to start, or are you still playing with your notes, as they say?
Well, I need to have a pee and I get my beer. But apart from that,
Speaking of
I'm
playing
ready to
with
start,
stuff, yeah, okay.
30 seconds.
All right. Get a move on. Get a wiggle on, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So Steffi, as usual, is going to join us after she gets home from work, which sounds like it's been a long afternoon. So I'm not quite sure what her ETA is.
Hey, anybody? Well, I know we don't have too many people on right now, but anybody that may be watching this in the future, and those of you who are there, I'm going to be at Oshkosh, and I'm going to take all my podcasting gear stuff, and I'm just wondering if anybody knows how you would get one of those facilities like the plane. What the heck is their podcast called? Opposing Bases guys ended up getting like one of those little pavilion.
I think,
things.
Jeff,
Yeah.
you know the thing I sent you about getting your media credentials?
Yeah.
I think if you talk to that guy that sent it,
Okay.
I can't remember what his name is. I think maybe if you went through him, you might be able to get a place.
Ah. Okay.
remember.
Media credentials.
Okay, I am ready to go, I think. Do I look ready to go?
Dick Napinski is his name, Jeff. So I think
Okay.
if you
Dick
maybe
Napinski. I see
yeah, I
it.
think if you send him a note, he might be able to steer you in the right direction.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to do that for sure or not, but I was just thinking about it. I was thinking, to record at least one show while I'm there, and I'm just thinking, where I would do it, because I'm not in a nice Class A diesel pusher this time.
Hi, Tony.
I'm in the dormitories. A Dormcast, maybe.
Okay. Are we ready
I'm
to
sure
roll?
the entire building would stay nice and quiet for you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Excuse me. Let me do a sound check.
Oh, I could smell that here.
Could you? Does
Yeah.
it smell like limoncello?
Phew.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from
More
our
where that
side
came
of the
from.
cockpit door.
That's a worry.
APG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Is that all right? Good?
Yeah.
Too high? Too
Sounds
low?
Nope. Sounds good to
Okay.
me.
That'll work.
Okay, and so it's going to be this one, and this one, and then when Steph shows up,
Yep, that
Right.
one. Neville Bounds composition.
Oh, my first
Yeah.
IPA of the day.
ooh, nice.
Very nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Man, I got a lot of tabs open up here.
I still didn't get my iPad. Never mind.
Go get it. We can
No, I
wait.
don't need it. It's just, it's like a crutch in
Yeah.
case I need suddenly lose real estate. But I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going with less real estate than normal just to see how that works out. Probably
You're
not
going
well.
you're going minimalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's going pantless and minimalist.
I know. He's
Yeah.
paring his life down there.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. Well, depends on your opinion. It sounded like I thought somebody was peeing.
No, I was pouring
That's
out
what
some
happens when you're pantless.
peanut.
Okay. Let me turn on
recorders.
the recorder.
Yes.
We thought
just
about it
thinking that.
exactly the same time.
Yep.
Recording on, I think. Let's see. And Liz, if you don't mind, just
Oh,
pop
go to
over to
clean
Clean
feed, yep.
Feed just to make
Yep.
sure I'm getting signal there. All right. Getting signal from you there. Good, good, good. Okay. So my recorder's going. And I'm back here. And I need to make sure that I have soundbite available for that. And okay. I think we're ready to go. Shall we?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 519.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Lake Burton, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 27th of April, 2022.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, how the Army Golden Knights caused a panic at the Capitol. An aerial stunt causes the crash of a Red Bull plane. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, the Ugly Ducklings. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 519 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins in
New York City!
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, GA, and joining us from across the pond,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hello, Jeff. Lovely to be back on the show. Looking forward to a good one. Why is everyone pointing at me?
Because we like pointing our fingers. You know, we're those kind of people. And by the way, your plain tale about the ugly ones, you're not talking about some of the co-hosts, are you?
Ugly ducklings.
Ugly
ducklings.
Yeah, well, they grow into beautiful swans like you and I, mate.
Oh, that's nice. Well, oops, we've already done you.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
Let's,
I
well,
didn't
so to
feel a
speak.
thing.
That's what she said. From her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master. And our producer, it's Liz Piper.
Good day, everyone.
Over there. There we go. All right. And Dr. Steph, we're planning on her joining us while the show is in progress. Let's go to news.
Stand by for news.
An update on the China Eastern 737 crash. On April 20th, 2022, the CAAC released a statement indicating the preliminary report has been submitted to ICAO. The data restoration of the data of CVR and the flight data recorder is still in progress. The aircraft left the assigned cruise altitude of 8,900 meters. Radar recorded the last position at 3,380 meters altitude, speed over the ground, 1010 kilometers per hour. Is that right?
Yeah.
And a heading of 117 degrees. The radar signal was lost at that point. The main wreckage was found in a puddle of 45 square meters. Now you can throw up that. There we go. Thank you. And a depth of 2.7 meters at, and they give us a lat long that we don't need to say. And included the horizontal stabilizer, vertical tail, left and right engines, left and right wings, fuselage parts, cockpit parts, as well as landing gear, all in that little, very, very small place.
Wow.
Those recovered parts were transported to a warehouse for further analysis. Traces of fire were in the forest surrounding the crash site. I think there we go. There's the fire in the forest. The trailing edge of the right winglet was recovered about 12 kilometers from the main impact site. Flight and cabin crew qualification and certification was without flaw. The aircraft was airworthy with no deferred entries in the tech log. There was no hazardous cargo on board. Ground-based navigation facilities all operated normally. No dangerous weather was forecast for the area when the aircraft departed its cruising altitude. Radio communication with the aircraft was normal until 14:16 local time, the last radio communication. So basically, there's no, what happened doesn't really tell us anything except that the airplane just went straight down and made a very deep hole in the mountain.
Yeah, all we really know
started the
is
fire.
that nothing major fell off before the event that might have caused it. It all seemed to be attached to the aircraft when it went in. So,
Still a
that's
mystery.
just reduced ever so slightly the number of potential causes.
Mm-hmm. True. So not a big update, but an update nonetheless. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to figure out something as the investigation continues. Liz says that you're still flashing.
Yeah,
Nick.
I know.
Yeah.
I could cycle my camera. That might get rid of it.
It's up to you. It's an audio podcast, so I don't really care.
Okay.
It's however you feel about it. Oh, that looks a lot better right there.
Yeah, so it's not stop flashing now, isn't it?
It's not flashing.
Oh, it's perfect.
Hey, speaking of flashing. Oh, sorry.
So you do have pants on this
I do
week.
have pants on
Okay. Whoa. Yeah, steady on.
for now. Yes, when I get into the show a bit is when I start relaxing.
Yes, when you heat up a bit. Yeah.
Peeling off pieces of clothing. I can't say that, Liz. Okay.
If I were to stand up, I'd show you something very offensive.
Oh, yeah, that is offensive. Oh, please
Sorry about
avert your eyes.
that. Yes. For those on the podcast, I'm wearing my Opposing Bases t-shirt.
Never heard of
Well, you really got up your nose, didn't it?
it. Anyway. Oh, that's the number one aviation podcast out there, by the way. In the world.
In the world, yes.
That's ever been.
Yep.
No, they are awfully good, though. I have to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. 1D. Here we go. Let's move to this next item, and it is from the Aviation Herald. It was an incident. Air France, Boeing 7. I was like, what does that 77 stand for again? 777. There we go. 200. Let me start over. The next item in our news is this from the Aviation Herald. An Air France Boeing 777-200 registration Foxtrot Golf Sierra Papa Golf performing flight 953 from Malabo in Equatorial Guinea to Douala, Cameroon, with 37 people on board, was en route to Douala, maintaining flight level 090, which is approximately 9,000 feet, when the crew requested and was cleared to deviate north of the assigned route due to thunderstorms. Later, while turning towards Douala, the Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System, the EGBWS of the aircraft, issued a terrain warning and called "Pull Up," which the crew complied with, climbing the aircraft to flight level 130, which the crew complied with, where the EGBWS stopped the warnings. The aircraft subsequently continued for a safe landing in Douala. So on April 21st, now we're showing some slides of the, why don't you back up one, Liz? That is the from the Malabo Airport in the lower left-hand corner, and we'll have these in the show notes, by the way, and the projected route of flight. But apparently there were some thunderstorms between Malabo and the shore of the mainland, and so they deviated to the northeast to avoid the thunderstorms. The problem is, to the northeast is some very high terrain. In fact, Mount Cameroon, the summit is 13,202 feet. And we're going to see here in their investigation, the final report, what happened, which made it a major incident. Let's see. I'm going to skip down to the sequence of events. The crew, composed of a captain and two co-pilots, were performing a flight departing Malabo, bound for Paris via Douala, so it was an en route stop. The leg between Malabo and Douala, which takes about 40 minutes, was carried out at flight level 90. The captain was the pilot monitoring and the co-pilot the pilot flying. Due to the stopover infrastructures and the short flight time of the leg, a departure and arrival briefing was carried out in the cockpit before takeoff. The flight file forecast cumulonimbus and visibility greater than 10 kilometers at Malabo. At Douala, METAR indicated the presence of a storm, cumulonimbus, and a ceiling of 1,600 feet. The Terminal Area Forecast, the TAF, forecast rain showers and visibility reduced to 3,000 meters, as well as a ceiling of 1,300 between 2 May 2000Z and 3 May 6Z. The Operations Control Center informed the crew that the storm over Douala was in the process of moving west and that 2 airplanes had just landed there. In contrast, the precise meteorological conditions along the route were not known. Let's see. During the briefing, the crew covered the following specific points. The terrain on the left side of the takeoff path required a right turn to be made, which is the opposite to the path specified by the FMS. The meteorological conditions at Douala were considered acceptable. The crew had been informed by the company's flight operations department that the zone of convective activity, which was present over Douala, was moving from east to west. The workload linked to the numerous exchanges with the ATC without a radar between Malabo and Douala was high for the pilot monitoring. The airplane left the gate on time. A member of the cabin crew was authorized to fly in the cockpit and was seated on the observer seat on the right of the relief pilot seat. The crew took off from Malabo's runway 22, initially turned right to a heading of a 030 to join the flight plan route, and then engaged the autopilot. At the end of the turn after the takeoff, the crew indicated they observed numerous storm cells on the radar on the flight plan route and to the south. It was night. The cells were not touching. The crew could make out their shape and see lightning. The airplane continued its path northeast, deviating northwards from the flight plan route. The pilot flyings and pilot monitorings navigation displays were in the weather mode, WXR mode 5. The scale on the pilot monitorings nav display was 20, then 40, and finally 80 nautical miles during the climb. On the pilot flying's nav display, it was 80 and then 40 at the end of the climb. The crew used the Douala arrival chart, star runway 30, to navigate. The pilot flying saw a large red return on his nav display ahead of the airplane, and another oblong red return on their right, which seemed to be moving forward with the airplane. As the PF did not understand what was causing this second return, he was not sure about its nature and decided to set his radar to terrain mode to clarify the situation, which simultaneously increased the scale to 80 nautical miles. He returned to weather mode 6 seconds later. Following this check, he thought that the return ahead of the aeroplane was a ground return from Mount Cameroon, and that the oblong red return on the right of the route was a false return. Around 10 minutes after takeoff, the aeroplane was 6 nautical miles northwest of Mount Cameroon. The crew indicated in their statements that their exchanges with ATC had become dense. The pilot monitoring suggested to the pilot flying that he take a right heading to join the start of the DME arc to runway 30 at Douala. When the airplane was on a heading of 061, the pilot flying controlled a right continuous turn to the selected heading of 120. Around 30 seconds after the start of the turn, the airplane was at an approximate height of 5,000 feet when the EGPWS terrain ahead caution was activated for 4 seconds. Nothing you want to hear, especially at night in areas with potentially high terrain. The two nav displays automatically changed to terrain mode. 3 seconds after the activation of the warning, the pilot flying increased the selected heading to 134. The aeroplane continued to turn right with a bank angle of about 25 degrees. A few seconds later, the radio altimeter height had decreased to 4,150 feet, and the train ahead, pull up, warning sounded for 8 seconds. The crew indicated that the nav displays turned red. In their statements, the cabin crew member in the cockpit and the pilot flying indicated that they made out trees on the right of the aeroplane. That's not good.
Ouch.
The pilot flying disengaged the autopilot and made a nose-up input, which is exactly the right thing to do. He advanced the thrust levers forward, full forward, to obtain maximum thrust 1 second later. The autothrottle was disengaged 5 seconds after the start of the maneuver. The slide that we're looking at now is showing the view from the to the northeast of Mount Cameroon. The flight's path is coming from the southwest, and if you see that little arrow there in the graphic, that's the direction from which it's coming. And they've started their climb. You see where the warning is in the red, and then you can see where they started the climb. And you can also see this very large cumulogranite cloud. In other words, the terrain, the mountain, Mount Cameroon. Liz is saying they never did climb above the height of the mountain. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But at where they crossed the mountain, that the height that they did reach cleared the terrain on the slope on the northwest side of the mountain. During the 8 seconds of the warning, the pitch attitude and vertical speed increased. The maximum pitch was 15 degrees. I don't know. I've never flew the 777, but on my airplane, it would probably be closer to 25 degrees at this point. The airplane remained in its turn, and the relief pilot asked the pilot flying to level the wings. So I guess he was still in that 25 degrees when he was doing that high pitch. And exactly what should have been said. Yeah, you need to get the best lift. We need to level the wings. The EGPWS warning ceased at 2014-20. The bank was briefly canceled before the term resumed with a bank angle of around 25 degrees, flight level 120, and a heading of 150 degrees were selected. On approaching flight level 110, the pilot monitoring told the pilot flying to stop climbing. The pitch attitude was held, and the pilot monitoring again told the pilot flying to stop climbing when they were flying through flight level 120. The radio altimeter height reached its minimum value of 2,100 feet, corresponding to an altitude of 11,500 feet. The summit of Mount Cameroon is at an altitude of 13,202 feet. When the airplane reached flight level 130, the crew resumed navigation to the ILS DME arc of runway 30 at Douala and landed without further incident. Okay. And then after that, they had a conversation with the Air France Operations Control Center, and it was decided that for them to continue the rotation to Paris with the same crew. Anyway, the final report here has some probable causes. The crew's concerned to avoid storm cloud masses and the reporting with ATC to the detriment of monitoring the flight path. The crew significantly deviated from the filed flight plan, which made the safety altitudes mentioned therein obsolete. The simultaneous use of both radars in weather mode, the representation of Malabo Airport on a chart not to scale, which did not facilitate the identification of the position of the planned route with respect to the terrain. The MORA, minimum
en route
obstacle or minimum obstacle. What is it? The MORA, not the min obstacle something altitude. Safety altitudes or grid MORA not being displayed on the nav display of the Boeing 777s. I guess maybe it was designed like that, not to show on the nav display. I'm not sure. The absence of a study of the en route phase when the operator carried out the risk assessment prior to opening the route between Douala and Malabo, leading to the risk of dangerous proximity with terrain en route not being identified. The activation of the EGIPWIS alerts and the immediate reaction of the crew meant that the collision with the terrain was avoided. So, it worked. Oh, minimum off-route altitudes? Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Whoever
yeah, I was just looking at that. You
told
got
us that.
MOCA, which is minimum obstacle clearance altitude, but
I was thinking of MOCA,
more
yeah.
quickly.
Okay, so that was from Steph. Yay, Steph's, even though she's not on camera right now, she's
still helping.
She is.
Good job.
Thank you, Steph. Minimum off-route altitude. Okay. I hear the term a lot, like grid MORA and that kind of thing, and I never just stop to think, what does that MORA actually stand for? I know it means you need to be careful because that means that there's, high terrain in that area, and you have to be
above that altitude.
Above that altitude. Yeah, and you need to be situationally aware of the terrain. And so picture this, they're if they had taken their flight plan routing, it would have been a problem because it's basically over the water, sea level. And then not until you get to the coastline does the terrain start rising up a little bit, but not like the big giant Mount Cameroon, 13,202 feet or whatever it is, off to the northwest, northeast. But because they were deviating around thunderstorms and they're at 5,000 feet, thinking we have plenty of space between us and the water or terra firma. But what they weren't aware of was the fact that this big giant mountain sticking up was right in their path, and they got really close to hitting the darn thing. In fact, that red oblong return that they were looking at on their nav displays that the radar was showing, the one that they thought was just like a false return was actually the mountain that they almost flew into. So this was the one with the trees on it. This is a very close call on this thing. And the thing that saved them was actually, responding immediately to the enhanced ground proximity warning system. Yeah, and that's one of the, Liz is saying, taking off the autopilot, right? Yes. I don't know if it's true for every airplane, but I think every airplane that I've flown, anytime you get a terrain, pull up. You don't do it with the autoflight system. You turn everything off and you manually bring the pitch of the aircraft to a very high pitch angle and you go full power and you kind of are in and out of the stall warning system because you want to get this, the maximum performance, the maximum climb performance out of your airplane as possible. And by turning off the autopilot, pitching up again, the 777-200, I don't know, 15 degrees is like really, really steep, or maybe they had a little bit more pitch to work with to get the thing to climb a little bit higher, because toward the end of that, I don't know if it's your analysis or not, Nick, but toward the end of that whole maneuver there, I'm thinking they were thinking that they were clear of the terrain, but they were still awfully close to that mountain.
Yeah, they were. And you've got to not just clear the mountain, you've got to get a suitable safety margin between you and the top of that mountain, which is usually at least 2,000 feet before you can consider yourself safe. You've made all the main points there. Excellent, Jeff. The only thing I would say is that this is a memory item. And it should be absolutely ingrained in your consciousness so that when you perform it correctly. And one of the absolute first actions you do is roll wings level, which they failed to do, which is a bit disappointing because all the time you are trying to pitch that aeroplane up and get it climbing, and they were in significant danger because, as we saw from the lateral graph, if they'd been a few miles closer to the actual top of the mountain, they were just to the north of it, they would have hit that mountain, no problem. If they'd rolled the bank off and just pointed the aircraft skywards, they might well have survived it had they been closer to that mountain. But it's the horizontal, the side view, Liz. That's the one. So if they'd been pointing at the tip of the mountain, they would have clobbered it. So get that bank off and check the air brakes are in full power and pitch to whatever that you're allowed to. Now, the lovely thing about Airbuses that I flew is you do go full backstick and allow the aircraft to pitch to its maximum angle of attack, which could be a very significant pitch angle, safe in the knowledge that the aircraft will not stall. And you can power up and get an awful lot of height very, very quickly. That's assuming, of course, you've got all the flight laws working for you, and there's no reason why you shouldn't 99.9% of the time.
Right.
Which is great. So, they did a brilliant job in reacting to it, except for that one element, take the damn bank off, because it'll improve your angle of climb. And the other thing is their lack of understanding of the terrain modes of the aircraft. Now, to be absolutely fair, you're probably only ever going to get one of these for real in your life. Most pilots will never get one. You might get one, and all the rest of the time you're doing this in the simulator. So the last time you saw this was perhaps a year ago at a sim check when you had to review the terrain modes and what they displayed, because they could have reacted to this a lot quicker, a lot earlier on the terrain ahead warnings, or even when they saw that red blob, and if they correctly identified it. So the answer for that is, if you're a professional pilot, you're expected, and I know it's tough because it's all ground school and you've got to work through the books, and it's something you would only really think about. You look at the sim profile and you go, oh, look, we got some terrain avoidance procedures to do. I better review that part of the manuals. It would be lovely to think that every pilot has that fresh in his mind. Not always true, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic problem is a lack of awareness of the mountain. Well, that's part of the route brief. You should be looking at your route brief going, good Lord, it's not that far north of us. There's a 13,500 foot mountain. And if you've got I presume they had EFBs and not paper maps, but even paper maps have all this information on it. Not quite as obvious, perhaps. But if you've got an EFB and you're tracking your flight along the electronic map that's displayed there, which is, got all the safety altitudes on it, you should be scratching your head going, we're at 5,000 feet. In this box we're now flying into, it says 13,500 feet. Shouldn't we climb a bit, perhaps, or make sure that we know exactly where the high ground in this box, this area we're going into, is? So, I'm a little surprised that they were allowed to carry on. I think after a situation like that, most guys would probably be suspended until they had done extra training and made sure that they were okay to get back, apart from the fact that they must have had that preying on their minds on their next sector. But of course they're down route and you're not going to be able to pluck a whole new crew out of thin air, so a set of pilots. So that's down to the company to decide. But very close. I'm so glad we've got them still here, and that we're not talking about an accident, just an incident, but it's something that anyone still working. I'm in the lovely position of not having to worry about this sort of thing anymore. Just needs to go, ooh, I wonder if I know all those indications, and if I got my memory drills absolutely right, so that if it happens to me, I know exactly what to do. It's a good reminder to get back in the books, perhaps.
Something that I think that the captain, the commander of this flight, did well was crew cooperation coordination. As I mentioned at the beginning, the crew were composed of a captain and two co-pilots, one being a relief pilot due to the delayed departure of the airplane. The captain asked the relief pilot to particularly monitor the flight, acting as his eyes and his ears. The relief pilot shared in the subjects of concern imposed by the management of the flight, namely avoiding the storms, as indicated by the cabin crew member in the cockpit, who explained that he saw the three crew members bent over the weather radar. In this context, no crew member detected the fact that avoiding the cumulonimbus had led them to significantly deviate from their flight plan, making the safety altitudes specified therein null and void. But it was, at some point, I forgot exactly where here in this report, it does talk about the fact that the relief pilot behind the captain was the one that reminded him to roll out, to go wings level, and so it was a good thing that he was there behind the captain.
Exactly,
kind of
but if you've got an extra pilot, then give him a duty to do that you're not already doing. Yeah. So if you and the pilot flying, the pilot monitoring, both staring at the radar, we really shouldn't do. Someone's got to be looking after the flight path. Right. Then give the relief guy the other job. You've got to change your displays to be able to see it, but at least he could be perhaps got his maps out and taking a look at the flight track, going, wow, look at that, guys. There's a 13,000 foot mountain in front of us. Right.
It was almost as if they were completely unaware of that huge mountain right there.
Yeah, which is kind of a problem when you got a 40-minute sector and you arrive, you do your bits and bobs, and unless you're very familiar with it and have briefed it before, you really ought to spend a little extra time when you're flying amongst high terrain.
Yeah. Hey, I notice someone is here, and she, of course, is coming to us from her lakeside studio in... She is a skydiver, a doctor, a marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument rated backstabbing jumper dumper, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. Hey, Captain Nick. Good to see you guys. Sorry for being tardy. Traffic is terrible these days. Back to pre-pandemic levels. So.
I actually wasn't expecting you to join us this early. I'm
really?
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, in that case,
we all are.
Forget that I was apologizing.
Yeah, forget that stuff. Yeah. We're not accepting your apology.
Fine. I take it back.
Okay. And thank you for the help with the minimum off route altitude.
You're welcome. I looked it up previously because I read through that and I didn't know what it stood for
okay.
either because acronyms.
Oh, you didn't
became-
have to tell us that. You could have
Acronyms are.
just
No, I'm just
acted
going to
like
say
I know that.
acronyms are dangerous, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of them out there, and it's impossible for everyone to remember all of them unless you're actively like dealing in them and teaching them. And even then,
Mm-hmm.
I know people who use certain acronyms all the time, but they
Mm-hmm.
have long since forgotten what it actually stands for. So
Yes.
As long
never-
as you know what it means, you know what
it
it, you know
mean-
how
well, yeah, what it
significance
stands for,
of it
but
is.
you know,
Yeah.
you get caught off guard when someone goes, "Oh, what does that stand for?" And you go,
Why
you know,
don't you
I've
look
been
it up? Tell
I've
me.
been in this field for a long time, and I've been using that acronym for 10 years, and I don't remember anymore. So,
Right. They are dangerous for sure. All right, Steph. Well, the first couple of items in our news notebook, we decided to defer until you got here because they're both skydiving related. And so the first news item is this 1A from the clip source is ArmyTimes.com. The U.S. Capitol was briefly evacuated last Wednesday evening after police identified an aircraft that they said posed a probable threat. But the plane was actually carrying members of the United States Army Golden Knights. They are a skydiving precision parachute team. They parachuted into the Nationals Park for a pre-game demonstration. The
They were
alert.
demonstrating what for more pay or something.
Yeah,
so they're
they were-
the U.S. Army parachute team. They do demonstration parachute jumps is the term for this type of. Yes.
So the alert from the U.S. Capitol Police sent congressional staffers fleeing from the Capitol and Legislative Building around 6:30 p.m. The incident suggested a stunning communications failure between the military and the Capitol Police, all the more remarkable because of Washington's focus on improving security since January 6, 2021. The Army is investigating whether it followed all procedures to coordinate the event, according to a statement released to Military Times. Now, I don't know if we have it in the in this or not, but
Yes,
we
it's
do.
farther
The
down.
second item from APnews.com. This happened, I think, the next day. The Federal Aviation Administration have their tail between their legs. They acknowledged Friday that it failed to alert Capitol Police about a parachute jump at a nearby baseball stadium, a misstep that led to a security alert and evacuation of the Capitol. We deeply regret that we contributed to a precautionary evacuation of the Capitol complex and apologize for the disruption and fear experienced by those who work there, the FAA said in an unsigned statement. They are taking immediate steps to ensure that we always coordinate well in advance with other agencies to avoid confusion over future aviation events in the Washington, D.C. area. Let's see. The agency said its review of the incident in heavily restricted airspace is continuing. The FAA did not tell the Capitol Police that a small plane would circle overhead on Wednesday evening on its way to drop members of the U.S. Army Golden Knights. Let's see. Not knowing the plane's mission, congressional staff. Okay, we already know about that. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi promised a congressional review of the FAA's actions, which she called outrageous and inexcusable.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah. So at first, somebody in the Army was thinking, oh, we must have screwed up. We didn't tell them that we were going to be flying
That's
nearby.
always your first reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yes.
How did we make a
Well,
mistake?
Yeah,
I'm
who
sure
screwed
everybody
this one
involved is going,
Joe, you
where
called,
did
right?
we miss this? This is a big one. This is a big one. So there's, anytime you're doing a demonstration parachute jump, there's FAA paperwork that gets filled out, even for some of the ones that I've done, which are certainly not of this scale. People jumping into local high school football games and things like that, well outside of the Bravo, but you still, the FAA wants to know about it. You need to get the proper permissions and paperwork done. And they're, reasonably extensive forms. It goes to, in our case, it goes to the FSDO. People, they look through it. You have to give them also information about where it's going to be, when it's going to be, who's going to be flying the airplane, who's going to be jumping. They want everyone's certificate numbers, medical information. And then they usually come back with approval for it. I don't know of any that we've done that haven't been approved, but again, not, large scale things. And before you launch, typically you call the appropriate air traffic control facility for the area and say, hey, we've got form 7, I think it's 7711-2 or something on file for our demonstration jump tonight. We're going to be taking off here at this time, still planning the jump to happen at this time, and just make sure they still give you the okay on it. Usually it stipulates you have to call an hour in advance. And as long as that's all okay, do it as planned, call them up, make sure that you have their blessing and permission before the jump actually happens, make sure they can coordinate traffic in the area, and all goes well. So presumably when they're, and you have to let them know who's on the ground and who, what kind of safety precautions are taking place, and if there's any special things going on, like are there certain law enforcement folks that need to know about the event that's being planned. And I'm a bit surprised that in this case, the military demonstration team somehow did not manage to coordinate. Well, the FAA did not coordinate that on their behalf if they were supposed to have notified the Capitol Police. I'm also a little surprised
curious,
that in this
guys.
day of Flight Radar 24, that someone didn't just pull up the airplane and say, "Oh, hey, that one belongs to the Golden Knights," and they're circling the baseball field. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I see what's happening here.
they could have put in a spoof recognition
Well,
there.
right.
I'm just curious. How did the Capitol find out? Was someone just looking out of the window? Because they don't have I'm guessing they don't have a radar up there.
I'm sure someone is tasked with, this is sensitive airspace, and I'm
Someone
sure
with
someone.
a pair of binoculars.
I'm
I
not
think
sure how the.
they have a sophisticated system.
Yeah.
They say of
they're tasked with
anti-aircraft.
ensuring security for all these, government buildings and high level government officials. So if there's anything that in some way alerts them.
But funny thing, I kind of assumed, because it's not far from the White House and various other sensitive buildings, I'm assuming they would have one controlling authority for that to alert, and then they would, the White House everyone would dive into the bunker or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All the government buildings in that area would have been evacuated, not just the Capitol. So
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how that information gets disseminated between different authorities, but
I'm really
Also-
interested to know.
what are they all doing at work at 6:30 p.m.? Like, go home.
They're doing the work of our country.
Are they?
Yeah, haven't you watched West Wing? They never go home.
Oh, sorry.
They usually sleep in their offices.
Yeah.
Although it did say congressional staffers, and they didn't really say congressmen and
No.
No.
Just the staffers who do actually do all the
people are doing all the work.
Actual work.
Yeah.
Yes.
The I-Haul Boxes does have a
He
pertinent
does,
question.
yes.
So was this a premature evacuation?
Probably not something you want to ask skydivers about.
Okay. Kind of embarrassing.
You might get more information than you planned on. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
okay. Well,
More
good
detail.
good tip. Thanks,
You're
Steph.
welcome.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we'll move on then to this next item. This is from avweb.com. The FAA is investigating a failed plane swap. Okay, so you all remember that we had been talking about an event planned. This is a few weeks back, a few episodes back. And we kind of discussed what we thought about it and what our opinion was regarding the legitimate use of airplanes and the legitimacy of this whole thing. And then I don't know exactly where we left it. As I think we said,
We were
we'll
kinda
probably
s-
watch
we were
it
kinda
just to
split
kind of
on level of enthusiasm, excitement, or just why are they doing
Right.
this? Doesn't seem like a good idea. We're kind of
Yeah.
split.
Well, so I was reminded by, I think it was Liz, you reminded me the evening of that Red Bull stunt Sunday night that it was going to be coming on. And so I checked out to see where I could find it. And I think Liz also said, I think you have to watch it on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching it. And man, if you started watching it from the very beginning of their coverage, it wasn't until almost 3 hours later before they finally.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh yeah. Lots of.
It was.
Nothing better streaming on Hulu that evening. Just plane swap, apparently.
Exactly. So we have some video of the event here. And, here, exciting music. Okay, so this is the point at which the airplanes, we talked about the big giant carbon fiber aluminum speed brakes that these things had on the bottom of the aircraft to extend so that they could point these airplanes straight down. That was the plan. and they could jump out of each other's airplanes and then cross over and then get back in the other airplane and then recover from the dive. And so this, I stopped it right at the point where the skydivers are leaving their first airplanes, and pilots / skydivers. At this point, we're just going to call them skydivers. And
Participants?
Participants. Okay, so here we go. Very cool. They have smoke generators coming from both aircraft. The one on the left, on at least the video that we're looking at right now, the airplane looks like it went beyond 90 degrees nose down and continued even further, maybe more like 110, 120 degrees past vertical. So it's kind of going on its back a little bit. And it's starting to enter an inverted spin. So Luke, the one that jumped out of the one that's in the spin, managed to get over to the silver aircraft fine. But the guy that was supposed to go from the silver to the blue, the one is in the inverted spin here, said, "Yep, it's out of control. It ain't happening." And he used his, I guess, reserve chute. It looked like a pretty small. No, it wasn't a reserve chute. Was it a regular? Okay.
As far as I know, they were wearing regular.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, and I don't have the video of this part of it, but I've seen several different angles of the replays of the video. It looked to me like when it first came out, the thing was really oscillating a lot. And then as he was coming down for his parachute landing, or whatever you call it, with that type of parachute, it looked like it was going really fast. And I'm thinking it just didn't look like as big a parachute as I'm used to seeing. But again, we have an expert here, so
it looks like a normal parachute to me.
Okay, all right, never mind then.
Mm-hmm. And the reserve parachutes would be very similar in size.
Oh, would they?
To their regular parachutes, if not slightly bigger in some cases.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about this whole thing, Steph?
So I actually, on the way home today, I came across this link from skydivingmag.com or skydivemag.com, and they had one of their journalists who's also a pilot and a skydiver and decent amount of experience doing both of those things, kind of go through, just kind of objectively his thoughts on it. And I thought it was a very good summary of kind of my take on it as well. I'll give you the link to it because it's actually really interesting. He kind of just breaks down and goes through step by step, his thoughts on it, but then also some of the potential ramifications coming out of this as well. From a technical perspective, from the piloting side of things and from the skydiving side of things, most skydivers I know were interested to watch it. I was actually at a birthday party for a fellow jumper, and we were all gathered around. Apparently we could only find like a 13-inch iPad screen to broadcast this on in the backyard. So we were all
really was that what we saw in that picture? I thought it was just like really far away.
No, it was tiny. We were all
those jumpers, they're not very rich, that's all they can afford.
Everybody's got computers and software and stuff, and like all we had with us here at this party was one person had like an iPad that we could connect to Hulu. So anyway, we all watched it and we all knew immediately. I was like, oh nope, that's not gonna work. But from the technical side of things, if everything works as it's supposed to, which clearly they had done quite a few test runs of this, presumably with someone in the aircraft the entire time, but there's definitely footage that they have of them leaving the airplane, having the speed breakout, airplanes descending near vertical, trying to match those fall rate speeds. So, I think they were aiming for somewhere around 120, 125. You don't want the airplane getting ahead of what you can comfortably do in free fall. So you need to be able to catch back up to it and get back in the airplane. And that all looked like it was working okay. From a skydiving standpoint, not super technical. There's a lot of factors to be aware of. The aircraft aren't too far apart from one another. They're just leaving and then coming back to the other aircraft. And the things to be aware of really have more to do with, the aircraft itself as you get close to it. So you can be in the wake or the burble of the aircraft, making sure that you're landing on or grabbing the strut there at the appropriate place, staying out of the way of the windmilling propeller. and then safely getting back into the aircraft itself. But those are things that, with practice and time, I think would be reasonably easy for these guys, especially to do, because they have a lot of experience as skydivers.
We talked about that, the propeller. Sorry to interrupt you, but the propeller, I was thinking, we talked about this a few weeks back, and they said, the engines are not going to be running.
No,
but what I didn't think
windmilling.
about is that the propeller is still moving around. I'm thinking if you accidentally get yourself close to that thing or in its path, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, you don't want to be near that thing.
It's still going to hurt.
Fast spinny things are bad.
Yeah.
Yes, quite bad. So presumably they really thought that through about where they're going to be, grabbing onto the aircraft as they approach it to be safe. And if it's not in any sort of stable configuration, you just abort it and take care of yourself and stay safe, which is clearly what Andy did, because his aircraft was not falling in a way that he was going to be able to safely get back inside the aircraft. Did you guys see a little side note here? Did you see any of the video that was posted of the, what do they call it? BRS, ballistic recovery system, kind of like a Cirrus CAPS parachute that was on the aircraft?
Yeah, it came out like just
very, very, very late,
like a second before it hit.
Yeah. No chance that was going to do anything
No.
to save that aircraft. The actual video is pretty impressive. I saw that. I'll have to find that. It was in someone's skydiver who was there at Eloy. I guess there were a bunch of them watching from a safe distance, but was able to capture that and posted it to his Instagram stories.
The poster looks a lot better than reality.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very nice.
But then we kind of get into the stuff that we had touched on previously in terms of the controversy surrounding this. So, what's the point of this? Like, just purely entertainment? Yeah, I think so. Is it something that's, posing undue hazard or risk? Potentially, I suppose. They're out over the desert, but, someone could live under a rock out there and have no idea this is happening and just be hiking, camping.
And what about those
I
poor
suppose.
snakes and lizards and scorpions and stuff? I mean, they have feelings too.
All that stuff. So, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more. It's probably in the. Do you want to read the article a little bit about what the FAA has since said
Sure.
about what's happened here?
Okay, well,
sum it up a little bit better than what I am going to say.
yeah, AvWeb said that the FAA is investigating the made-for-streaming Red Bull stunt. Let's see, the agency told AvWeb late Sunday that it had earlier rejected, and by the way, this happened on Sunday, that it had earlier rejected a request for an exemption from FAA regulations by organizers of the stunt. The FAA will investigate Sunday evening's attempted Red Bull plane swap in Arizona. One of the two single-engine Cessna 182 aircraft used in the stunt crashed after it spun out of control. We just talked about that. The pilot landed safely by parachute. The other pilot regained control of the second aircraft and landed safely. The agency on Friday, just a couple of days before this, denied the organizers' request for an exemption from federal regulations that cover the safety operation of an aircraft. In the denial letter, the agency says it can see no public interest being served in the stunt, and it also said the stunt might affect public safety. It has apparently refused permission for similar actions in the past, but in those cases, it was to simulate a crash landing. The organizers specifically asked for relief from 91.105A1, which says someone has to be in the cockpit when the plane is in flight. The FAA says the stunt actually violated other regs, too. Mm-hmm. Cousins Luke Akins and Andy Farrington were attempting to each exit their own modified Cessna 182 in a dive and maneuver to the other code. We all know that. Let's see. Pilots had been working on the stunt for several months and installed belly-mounted speed brakes, we talked about that were supposed to stabilize the aircraft in the uncrewed portion of the dive. That's where it all went awry. The autopilot had also been modified, and this might be the part of the problem as well, to hold the planes in a steady dive. It's not clear what went wrong. It also wasn't immediately clear where the crash aircraft ended up, but they did, as Steph just mentioned. We have video of it. We know exactly where it is. We have a picture of it. Yeah. But we also included, I don't know if you threw that up there in the the overlay of the FAA letter. I think I have that in there. Liz. There we go. There's the denial of exemption, all official looking legal paper from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and that's just basically they go through and explain why they have rejected their petition for an exemption. So basically, they did it anyway. And,
So this is the surprising part
Yeah.
to me because, typically when you get a denial like this, I think so I'm just going to speak for myself. If I was, one of these guys planning to do this stunt, if I received this, I'd say, that's probably not worth my certificate. So I'm going to respectfully bow out of this endeavor, and I wish you all well. If we figure out a way to get this exemption down the road or someplace else where we can do it, where they wouldn't, care quite as much, perhaps, I will be happy to rejoin. And I'm a little surprised that Red Bull as the, kind of title and Hulu as the title sponsors and organizers were on board with continuing as well, because that doesn't look good for them either.
No, that was going to be my point, Steph, because if these guys had done it off their own bat, and it's gone, to hell with the FAA, we're just going to go ahead and do it. You go, all right, pair of guys who just want to prove a point, perhaps. But Red Bull do an awful lot of this kind of stuff.
They do a lot of
and
things.
it's pretty exciting. It's good watching. It's adrenaline pumping, and the vast majority of it is done with a high degree of safety, because they've analyzed the threat and they've decided that it's an acceptable risk for the participants. You look at the Red Bull racing, the aircraft racing around those pylons and things, absolutely brilliant to watch, really fantastic. And I think it's done a lot more safely than it used to be in the old days when pilots were solid and there were aircraft falling out of the sky left, right and center. But I'm extremely surprised. I'd be very surprised if Red Bull actually said, yes, you can go ahead, because this would be completely contrary to all the other high exciting sports that they sponsor and back.
Sure.
I think the cousins here made a big mistake in pressing ahead.
I mean, I almost have to feel like there's information that we don't yet know that allowed them to feel like that was an acceptable risk to take on. I'm not sure. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out for them.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps they thought they were going to make so much money out of it that they could afford to pay the fine and live happily ever after, even if they weren't going to do any more skydiving or flying. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So USPA, to my knowledge, has not said anything about this event in terms of concerns or investigations with regards to the skydiving portion of it.
No.
It's the regulatory body here in the United States for sport parachute activities.
Well, skydivers are crazy anyway, so what are you going to do about them?
So two other points I was thinking of as we were reading through the article. I know, right? They're the worst. So some speculation on, what did go wrong with the aircraft. Like, why did it end up in that inverted spin, especially
David Kreider knows.
Oh, yep. Well, he's kind of on the point I was going to make there, but I think
he
it's probably
he forgot
actually
to take,
correct.
David Kreider says he forgot to take the fire extinguisher with him. Led to the imbalance.
Exactly. So, if they never actually tested this without someone in the aircraft, was there a weight and balance type of discrepancy that allowed it to...
Might well have been.
Yeah. Or was it something with the autopilot that they, kind of...
I mean, it might have just been the rate of pitch. The autopilot wasn't able to counter that rate fast enough.
I mean, I've flown plenty of GA aircraft with autopilots that kind of autopilot.
Well, so they in the 2.5 hours preceding this stunt, they did a lot of things. But one of the things that I think was kind of useful, I thought, was talking about the engineer at Cal Poly, the professor, I forgot his name, and how they designed that big giant speed brake to deflect. And the original modeling used for that realized that the airflow was going to be disruptive of the tailplane, and that it wouldn't have enough control authority to keep the airplane from going past the 90 degree.
interesting.
And so they actually had to extend the speed brake panels about, I think they said 12 inches lower. And that allowed enough air to get between the fuselage of the airplane and the top part of that speed brake extended at 90 degrees to flow through, and then still have the airflow going over the horizontal stabilizer and elevator to control that. But I'm thinking maybe they miscalculated on that, or maybe the CG was enough out of whack where they didn't realize that it was going to be significant, and then
Or-
it still didn't help. I don't
I
know.
like Nick's idea. The rate changed faster than anticipated, and the autopilot didn't capture it fast enough.
Yeah.
I think that's
Another,
very
yeah,
reasonable.
that's probably a reasonable thing as well.
And then to go back to where the FAA has refused permission for similar actions in the past, I think they were referring to, and I think this was brought up in the video that was on skydivemag.com. It was Mythbusters, I think. They wanted to crash, was it a 727 in the desert without
It was either
or a DC-9 or something.
it was a 727 or a 707, something like that.
707. I forget. It was a while ago, but
Yeah.
I know we've talked about that before at some point too. But the FAA denied the permissions on that, so they moved it from the desert southwest of the U.S. into Mexico, and that's where they did it.
Well, there you go.
So
That would have been very easy, just go across the border.
I mean, if Mexico is willing to give you the permission, sure, why not?
I think he hit that button that no pilot would ever
Yeah, don't push that button.
that red button on the yoke
dear.
when he was jumping out.
Well, the good thing
Yeah, the
is,
autopilot disconnect one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course, on the yoke. Oh, you
That's
mean
the
an egg
autopilot.
yolk?
No, yeah, that yoke. Yeah. YOKE. We'll just call that an auto correct fail there for you.
the good thing is that no one was hurt. And the bad thing for these guys is that despite all their precautions, they still ended up with a crashed aircraft because they had obviously, if that aircraft had come down on a parachute, they might have been able to argue was that there was really no danger. But that aircraft crashing, then I think the FAA kind of proved their point there. I mean, and what's more, there are plenty of danger areas around the States where they could have perhaps asked the military, can we do this in a danger area where no one's going to be, or up on the red flag ranges or somewhere,
Yeah,
So I think they're on
sure.
a hiding to nothing when it comes to the FAA. I think they're going to get a big slap on the wrist.
At least, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So there. Well,
Good discussion.
yeah, it is, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to follow this and figure out exactly what happened. With
I
that.
think just given the high profile nature of this and the amount of
Yeah.
publicity that went on, we're going to hear a lot more about it
Oh, yeah.
as time goes on.
All right. Well, good. That's what we need for the show.
Continuity. We need continuity.
Yes, we
And
do.
resolution.
And we're going to move on. And I should have had this already prepped. Here we go. And this next item,
We're going green.
we're going green.
We're going green.
Well, not us.
We're
but-
gonna take care of the earth. We're going green.
I think it's the RAF going green. From missile launching battery powered quadcopters, say that 5 times quickly, to militarized zero emission flying taxis for special forces, the demand for the Ministry of Defense to clean up its environmental act is forcing its main contractor, BAE Systems, to investigate a host of new net zero technologies. And the latest of I get net zero quite often. The bandwidth just goes down to nothing. In the latest of a series of deals and partnerships, BAE has begun work with Pipistrel, a Slovenian manufacturer of light aircraft that has produced the Velis Electro, the first and so far only type certified electric aircraft in the world. We've seen that at Oshkosh a few times.
Yes.
And BAE wants to use the plane to pitch to become the supplier of choice to the RAF cadet and elementary flight training squadrons. Under options in the Ministry of Defense's unpublicized project Telum, the plan is for the RAF to become the first Air Force in the world to replace its 80-plus trainer planes with electric aircraft, with a target date set for the end of the decade. The MOD is reckoned to be responsible for half of all government carbon dioxide emissions. Ooh, bad.
They do a lot of breathing.
Yeah, they breathe really, really fast. Kind of like the imitation of Steph, Dr. Steph in the last show.
Doing her
did you hear that, Steph?
Wait, what?
Oh, I should have.
No.
You hear him?
I do.
That was his imitation of you running the marathon.
Is there something wrong with your pulmonary system? You
We
probably
thought-
should not be running marathons if that's how you sound.
No, that was you.
That was me.
Yes,
Oh, comfortably
that was
carry,
imitating
I
That
you.
was my imitation. Yes.
can comfortably carry on conversation. Thank you very much. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, I had to get a lot of huffs and puffs in, otherwise it would have been boring.
I know. It would have been, yeah.
Yes, the electric aircraft iHaul boxes, you'll be happy to know, are vegan and gluten-free as well.
Goodness.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to hand this off to Captain Nick because he is our representative, whether he wants to be or not. He's our AF representative on today's show.
It's all right. I had to be
Neil.
the skydiving representative, so it's your turn now.
Yes,
There you go.
I'm spreading the wealth.
There you go. So they say electric trainer planes are amongst the low-hanging fruit in the ministry's drive towards hit net zero targets. We can see the market potential and shape the requirements. Neil Apperton, head of electric products in BAE's Air Division, said of the potential for the Pipistrel Velis Electro. The decision to team up with Pipistrel is a snub to BAE's long-term collaborator Rolls-Royce, which has been developing its own light aircraft electric propulsion systems and its spirit of innovation. The demonstrator has been dubbed the world's fastest electric flying vehicle after test flying at nearly 400 miles an hour. So, it's a big deal. It's going to be worth about, let me see, the outfit, that was the Slovenian outfit has been bought out by 240 million by Textron. US industrial company is behind Cessna's light aircraft manufacturer. I didn't know that. The Royal Air Force are going to go electric. I think it's a great idea. They certainly for primary training and for the air cadets flight experience, the sort of endurance you can get out of a electric trainer is going to be perfectly adequate. I think in your primary training, a lot of the time you're flying circuits, staying in close proximity to the airfield, and you're not doing heaps of upper air work other than perhaps, local area stalling exercises, perhaps a bit of spinning, that sort of thing, few arrows. I'll be interested to see how well these aircraft perform, but it's got to be good because, if you can offset a portion of your training, then you're going to bring your overall CO2 production down.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent. All right. Anything else to be said?
I don't know, not that I've noticed.
Okay. Well, that brings us to one of the things we talk about quite a bit on this show, flying and drinking. Or alcohol.
Alcohol. Yay.
Bacardi. Yay, alcohol. This is from DallasNews.com.
Although, to be fair, this is not my particular favorite type of alcohol.
Mine neither. I'm not a cognac
Who's
drinker.
Bacardi Sue? Is that someone we know?
Oh, you know Bacardi Sue. She's like Comanche Sue. But
Okay. Comanche
she's
Sue
from-
after
We
a
love-
few
we love you,
drinks.
Sue.
yeah.
Didn't know
Our
she was such a fan
apologies, Comanche Sue.
of cognac.
Well,
love
maybe.
you, Sue.
I don't know. But I'm in favor of Bacardi rum, but not the cognac. Bacardi sues American Airlines for losing hundreds of cases of imported booze. More than 400 cases of cognac went missing while being shipped from France to Los Angeles, and Bacardi is demanding that American Airlines pay up. When the shipment arrived at Los Angeles International Airport after a flight from Paris, 6 pallets and 3 cases were missing. Bacardi isn't necessarily accusing American Airlines of stealing the French liquor. It contends the carrier is responsible, though, because the cargo was in its possession. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good argument. While in the possession, custody, and control of American Airlines, 6 pallets, not pilots, and 3 cases were lost or stolen. said the lawsuit, which was filed on Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Pasadena, California. Those 6 pallets are no small sum. Each pallet had about 70 cases of liquor, so more than 400 cases in total went missing. That's a lot of cognac. Oh, no, I think Colonel Jeff had already retired by this point, Liz, so he will let him off the hook on this one. Although I know that Colonel Jeff does love his cognac. Off the hick? Very cute. No, I'm not sure that's even true, if Colonel Jeff likes cognac or not. Anyway, Bacardi said the missing alcohol is worth just $65,820. I would have expected to be more.
Cheap
than
stuff.
That. Yeah. Not the
I don't know.
good
That
stuff.
sounds like a lot of alcohol to me.
Well, I guess. I don't know. I didn't do the math to break down $65,820.72 divided by 400 cases.
400? Well, hold on. I got a calculator right
That's
here. I'm not gonna
400
do that.
multiplied by 12 divided. Yeah, well.
Yeah.
$164 a bottle
Oh,
or a case. I'm sorry, $164 a
per
case.
case. Okay. And then divide the case by 12. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
That's only like
13
$12,
That's
$13.
$14 a.
That's cheap cognac. Yeah, that's Liz says that's crap.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't know if we did the math right or not, but it doesn't matter because
not
we just
great at
wanted
math,
to talk
just-
about the cognac and the great cognac heist of 2022.
Absolutely. I'm a little surprised that American didn't just cough up. I mean, they're insured.
Yeah,
So what's going on here?
they were afraid when they were coughing up that they'd have cognac on their breath.
Yes. They're all too drunk to reply to the letter. Where's our
They're
cognac?
just laughing at it. They're laughing at it like, pour me another glass.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that takes us to our getting to know us segment, and I have a little sounder for that here. Here we go. Yeah, a little ditty, as Liz likes to call it. Getting to know us to the wonderful music of Getting to Know You, The King and I. All right. So, let's go, Nick. I'm going to choose you first. What have you been up to?
Well, my agent got me a gig with PT UK, who pay considerably more than at the Airline Pilot Guy show. So I snapped at that chance, and I was on Friday. So presumably that's out by now. Yes, it must have been out there. So my apologies to anyone I've offended on that show. I'm going to offend a few more tonight on this show with our... with
standard SOP
Offenses
for
all
Captain
around. Offenses all around.
with the tail tonight, and I offended a few people, I hope, on the last show with my show cover art. But other than that, life continues, playing nursey to Mrs. Anderson, and hoping that her recovery continues apace. She actually tried driving her car today. She put it up on a tree, but apart from that, everything went very well.
Wasn't optimum.
Didn't go as planned, kind of like the
At
plane
least
swap.
you got rid of that damn cat. But
Well, that's why they have insurance.
yeah, exactly right. No, everything's ticking over nicely. Bowling season's kicked off, so I'm finding that I've got less free time, which is a bit of a shame. But other than that, life's fine and beaut. Thank you very much. I pass to the next host.
Okay, we'll go over here to that lady.
How did I end up on
Dr.
this side?
Steph.
I'm in the wrong place.
But when you were talking, a lot of the times you're facing kind of your head. No, I want it back the other way because she kind of faces in toward
it
the
just
screen.
has to do with where I put my screens. So I have a very large computer screen, and it's nice.
Yeah.
So I could move it.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I don't care where I
It's just hard.
am.
So I can't look straight in the center because then I have to put the like Evernote right in the center, and then I can't see you guys as well.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just trying to adjust it. So I thought it looked, the video placement was better. Like you were kind of looking toward us.
Everyone who's just listening to the audio podcast is going,
yeah, what are they talking
I have
about?
to look like this all the time?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
like the
they
Brady
don't-
Bunch. Anyway, yeah, we talked about the marathon last week. We had a show since then. So really just the weekend. Wow, it was a beautiful, gorgeous weekend here in Charlotte, and actually that was Monday night. We did quite a lot of flying this weekend, so it really felt like summer was kind of back. We had a couple days in the upper 70s, low 80s, light winds, abundant sunshine, and lots of sport jumpers came out to jump, and lots of people came out to make a tandem skydive. And some of the sport jumpers came out to do a canopy course with some very experienced, well-known folks who do canopy competitions, and then in their when they're not competing, teach other people to be better flyers of their parachutes. So we were very, very busy this past weekend. I think total on Saturday we flew between two airplanes. We flew 43 loads of skydivers, and I flew 30 of those.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
That's a
busy
lot.
day. Yeah.
It was a busy day. Fortunately, Sunday was not quite as busy, so that was good. I still think we flew, I'm not even sure, 25 or 27 loads, but I flew less than half of those, and I had a chance to do some fun jumps as well. So that was
How many
nice.
jumps did you say you flew? I mean, how many?
How many trips to altitude and back down?
Yeah.
30 on Saturday.
Wow. That's a lot.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. I haven't flown that many loads in probably, I don't know, at least since last summer.
Very
so.
impressive.
And it's exciting. It's fun. I'm glad to be doing a lot of flying again. And Sunday was not quite as busy, so I had a chance to do some fun jumps. And when I was
I
flying
thought
the
you said
airplane,
Funyuns there for a
Funyuns.
second.
I had a
there.
chance to
Oh.
eat some Funyuns.
The Funyun
Yeah.
effect.
The Funyun effect.
Yeah.
Fortunately, no Funyun effect. Everything smooth sailing.
Good.
And probably around, I guess, 11:15 in the morning, checking in with approach control and, say what I need to say to them. They give me my clearance that I need. And then someone goes, "Is that Steph?" I was like, "Hello."
Yes.
Yes. Not to clog up the frequency or, excite the controllers too much. So I
Or
don't wanna
get a
say-
telephone number to
yeah. But apparently that was sufficient, because then I got a Twitter message from one of our listeners, and I did not tell him I was going to say this, so I'll hold off on saying his name, but he knows who he is. And one
You
of our
know who
listeners,
you are.
you know who you are. One of our listeners who flying, doing survey work. There was a lot of survey work happening around Charlotte on Sunday morning. And the frequencies were quite busy with all of them asking for permission to be in the area they need to be in, the lines they need to fly, north and south, east and west, on station, et cetera, et cetera. But turns out that's his first paid flying job. And
cool.
He had been listening to APG prior to me checking on frequency. And he actually said that he thought his podcast started playing again. Which
That's wild.
that was pretty funny. He's like,
That's
"Wait a minute, I know that voice."
That's brilliant.
So I got a kick out of that. That was pretty funny. Yeah, and then that picture that you showed, that was actually from Monday night. That caravan was due for its 100-hour maintenance, and we do that just on the other side of the mythical Triad airspace. So
That's a sunset, not a sunrise.
that is a sunset, correct?
Okay.
Yes, that was Monday evening.
Beautiful.
You look very happy.
Oh, I was happy. I was like, yeah, I got off work and I get to go fly airplanes again. Great.
Hooray!
Yay.
And the microphone placement was perfect because he can't see your missing tooth.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. I try to.
Yeah.
Love it.
She
got it
has
fixed,
the fake one. The fake one's in there right now.
Yeah, implants. Right now.
Yeah.
They're all my teeth.
Cool.
Anyway,
Very nice teeth.
thank you. Yeah, so it's been a good weekend.
Excellent.
Hoping next weekend is similarly nice. Although I think we might get some rain, so we'll see what happens. But it's good stuff.
Excellent. All right. That it?
I think so. The
All
rest
right.
of it's just regular. The rest of it's just regular work stuff, and no one wants to hear about backstabbing.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that too. We've been really busy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go see my physio at 8 o'clock in the morning. Ooh, God.
Yay.
Are they going to poke any needles in you?
Well, she did last time, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
That was
I had that
acupuncture.
dry needling probably. I had that done yesterday also. So yes.
The only needling I get is from Liz, or nagging. Whatever.
That's worse needling, to be honest.
Full time, constantly. Just kidding, Liz, of course. My turn.
You go ahead,
let's
sir.
see. So last week, the day that we were actually recording the show, later that day, I drove into the Atlanta International Airport and just flew that one flight at night to, how I love flying at night, from Atlanta to White Plains, New York. And we were waiting for the airplane to come in from, I don't think it came in from Mobile, doesn't matter. And then all the passengers were off, and we went down, and we noticed that there was a couple of mechanics more than normal. Like usually there aren't any. There were 2 or 3 kind of walking around doing things. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Because the pilots that had left the aircraft didn't say a thing. They said, hey, it was a good jet. And they said in their walk around, they noticed that there was a hydraulic leak somewhere on the right wing. And so they were doing some troubleshooting. And so we ended up, I think there was also another issue with the flight deck door. One of the blowout panels in the door had fallen off the rail. And so there was some issue that had to be resolved there as well. And so one mechanic was working on that. Or maybe I'm conflating that with another flight. I don't know. Anyway, that was fixed, and we held off boarding for that. And I went up and made an announcement and explained what was going on. And then I had to tell them about this hydraulic leak, but that they were pretty confident that they had figured out where it was coming from, and it wasn't a problem. They'd done their troubleshooting. They were giving us the green light. We're going to go ahead and start boarding. Thank you very much. Everybody was applauding. I bowed, and I'm thinking, this is great.
And the curtain came down.
And so we boarded the airplane. Yeah, and the curtain came down. That was Act 1. Act 2 was after we got the whole airplane boarded up, and the agent was literally not boarded up like, boarding up windows, but boarded like all the passengers were on board. The door was literally about to be shut by the gate agent, and I noticed this presence of somebody wearing one of these fluorescent vests standing next to me. I look up
and smelling of aviation fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, may I help you? He goes, yeah, Captain, sorry. I hate to do this, but we're putting it down. And I went, excuse me? I really thought he was joking.
They're going to put the
with me.
airplane out of his misery. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I mean, not putting it down like shooting it. I need to be careful about how I say things.
Yeah, phrasing is.
Yeah, important. I'm not doing well here. Anyways, he said, I'm not going to let you fly the airplane because they in the time between doing all the paperwork and the passengers were boarding the aircraft, I guess maintenance control went back and looked at the history of this particular airplane, and every 2-3 days they were having to fill up or what's the word we use? Top it up.
Replenish?
Replenish, service, the left hydraulic
Stick
system.
some more in.
Yeah, you got all that. Thank you. That'll do.
Okay.
And so that's not normal. It's not that hydraulic systems should not be, requiring service that many times in that, short of period of time. And so I guess they decided, you know what, there's a problem, and we're losing hydraulic fluid. So we're going to go ahead and say, nope, we're not, no fly tonight. And I went, oh, okay, now I have to talk to our passengers again and, say, yeah, it was the
You've got to try and go back on what you've just said. And you convinced them it's a lovely, serviceable airplane.
I told them exactly what...
Earlier, I gave you good news.
Yeah.
Now I have to give you news.
I said, look, I'm
That's
not
usually
one...
what I say. I don't say bad news, just news.
I said, I'm not one to play pranks on people, and I honestly thought that I was getting a prank played on me. But now I have to tell you that they have decided that they don't want us to take the airplane. And for safety's sake, we need to go to a different gate and get a different airplane. And I was really surprised. I did a I think, a good job of coordinating or communicating with the passengers a lot during this whole thing, and everybody seemed just fine with it. They were thanking me and thanking us for putting safety ahead of everything else, and even when they were getting off the airplane in New York, and this is New York,
Wow.
they were really pleased that we had taken the time to do the troubleshooting and made the decision to get a different airplane and pull that one off the line.
I think it shows you that, open communication and honest communication goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like to be, left in the dark necessarily. If they're not getting the information, then they're imagining all the things that could potentially be going on.
Exactly.
And that's a whole lot worse than just getting the straight story.
That's been my experience in my long career of airline flying, that just be honest with them. They may not like what you're telling them, but at least you're telling them something. Anyway, so we finally got up to pretty late, right around midnight, to White Plains, and then left before noon the next day. So it was a short layover in White Plains, and then the next day we went through Atlanta and to Wichita and back. That was our victory lap or our penalty lap, depending on your perspective. And it was a little windy in Kansas. When I was there in the car, it was really windy, and
It's
in
a
the
twister.
airplane.
It's a twister.
Always
Yeah,
windy.
yeah.
I've seen the movie. It's
Toto.
always windy.
Toto,
Toto.
Toto. Yeah, so it was, but luckily it was mostly down the runway, only about 20 degrees off, so it wasn't really much of a crosswind. It was more of a gusty headwind, and it was bumpy. You get below 3,000, 5,000 feet, and it was it was bucking like a bucking bronco.
Had a
But
lot of that this spring. And
I'll bet.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeehaw, for sure. And when the people got off the airplane there, they seemed to be very happy to still be alive. And so
Oh, thank goodness we've made it to the ground. I'm going to kiss
yes,
the ground now.
I mean, it might have been because of I was crying a little bit. I was a little emotional about the whole thing. And yeah, anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So that was it. So that's what I did. I didn't really expect to talk that much about that 2-day trip. But anyway, got home late Friday night, and then spent the night in Roswell. And then the next day, did my singing. They had a special confirmation mass that I sang at 1:00, and then the vigil mass. And then I asked if I could have Sunday off. So I drove back up here to the cabin, and I enjoyed watching the F1 race on Sunday. And let's see, I've been on vacation basically since Friday night. And I've been kicking back and mostly doing nothing. Just kind of chilling out a little bit.
That sounds lovely.
I'm on vacation until my next trip, which is a 3-day trip leaving on Monday, May 2nd. And it's nice and easy because it's just a deadhead to Des Moines. At least that's what it says on paper. So I'll be in Des Moines kind of midday. And then the next day we end up in Baton Rouge, the capital of what do they call the New Orleans? What state is that? The Crescent State?
Louisiana is
What is it called? No, it's not the Crawdad State.
Wet state.
Crawdad State.
The Big Easy. No, that's the city. Anyway, we're going to be in Baton Rouge, the state capital.
I've just realised I could
Yes.
never go on vacation again.
Uh-oh. Why not?
Because
Because
I'm not
your whole life's vacation.
Is it the Pelican State?
Pelican State? No.
No.
Somebody tell. Is that what they're saying in the chat room?
No, I don't know what they're saying.
It's
in
the
the chat room.
snapping turtle state.
No.
No one said anything, and they're not helpful.
Hello, they're not even listening to what we're saying.
No,
Hey,
they've all
Nicknames.
left.
Official Pelican State. That's what Wikipedia says.
yeah. Okay, we're going to look it up. We're going to go to the Book of Knowledge.
Unofficial Bayou State, Creole State, Sportsman's Paradise. That's what's on their license plate.
Oh, Sportsman's Paradise. No
And
wonder
the-
I don't remember
the
what it
boot.
is.
It's on their license plate. It says Sportsman's Paradise.
I know. I agree with you. I'm not saying I just don't think of the
But there's also a
sport-
pelican on their license plate, too.
Okay, we'll call it the Pelican State.
Wow, how can you read the number if there's a pelican on it?
Okay.
We're a little
You
more
wipe the
creative with our
pelican off.
license plates here than you are over there.
No, I assumed you had a head-on with a pelican. Sorry.
Oh, well, you know, maybe.
Anyway,
Or reversed
Liz wants, I don't know why, but she wants to talk about my legs. So
yeah.
That's a nice looking
that
pair
is
of
the
legs.
cover art. Thank
Yeah,
you.
what a pair of
from
pins.
last episode. Steph and I kind of created the reason for the title. We started I don't recall exactly why, but we were talking about
Who knows?
being pantless and maskless and pantless. And the title ended up being Pantless Podcasts. And Nick, he just went to town on that one. And apparently he found an old photo that he had taken of me when he was over here a couple of years ago. And I told you, Nick, that these were private photographs that you were not to share. But he
Well, they're
ended
not
up using
photographs of your private, so you're lucky.
Well, I was covered up by that nice chair.
That's
You know,
very true.
we've already seen he has this file, the confidential files. Of
Yes,
like
I do.
Liz
I
has
know.
Liz has files and Nick has files, so we got to
Yeah.
be
Yes,
careful.
I save it all. I save it all. Actually, that was it was fun, but quite a bit of work because the original picture really was just that desk and the calendar and the Mac computer, the iMac. And everything else had to be added in. The legs of the desk had to be doubled in length. Had to put a carpet in there. Had to double the size to the left.
It's interesting.
Can't see the carpet, though.
No.
There you
Never
go.
mind. I'm not even
And
going to
of course-
continue down that conversation. I'm done.
I had to put Jeff in. And there are a few little interesting bits I thought I'd point out because the pose,
That are covered up.
exactly.
Is it the picture? Oh no, it's
The pose, exactly right, is taken from the picture behind Jeff's head there, which is of Christine Keeler, who was a lady involved in an affair with, simultaneously, our Minister for War and a
Minister for Peace.
Yes, a Soviet GRU agent. So it's called the Profumo affair, and the minister had to resign very famously, and that was a picture she had taken afterwards. The designer of that chair became very famous after the picture because everyone wanted to buy his chairs. So that's that little bit of interest.
They thought the girl comes with it or something.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
The clock, of course, mimics the akimbo leg position, and if you look very carefully in the center of the clock face, the logo there is a beaver. The show number.
Nice beaver.
Yes, exactly. The show number is actually on the calendar.
just the calendar. Yeah, I was gonna say you have
Yeah,
all the numbers
'cause
there
it-
in the calendar.
Yeah, because it goes 15, 18, 17, 16. So 518 was the show number.
Nice beaver.
Jeff's coffee, thank you. Jeff's coffee mug. Someone complained that your cartoon, Jeff, the hair was too dark. So I actually changed the hair on that coffee mug so it reflected.
I noticed that. I noticed
You did notice that.
Yes.
Excellent. There's a little blue man vomiting on your keyboard. And I think that's probably about it when it came to the little tricks. And
I'm a little disappointed you didn't do the show number in the clock and make it 5:18.
yeah, I could have done exactly, but then you would need to put one of your legs up in the air, wouldn't you?
It wouldn't match the symmetry and aesthetic of.
Exactly.
I would have been happy to do that.
Well, that would have been a neat trick. I'd like to see that.
No, you really don't. You really wouldn't. Okay. No, that was very.
That's good. 580. I'll remember that next time I'm looking for an idea how to get the show number in there.
Okay. Neil
brilliant.
Landworm says 2 legs. A good day for Jeff. I agree.
Exactly. By the way, nice shoes. I like those.
Thank you.
shoes. Very good.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Yeah. Cool.
It's a good color.
And of course, we don't call trousers pants over here.
'Cause
The
that's
pants
underwear.
are what you wear under your trousers.
Yeah, that's
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
Well,
yes, you
so
are.
this was really the commando podcast then.
Yes, it was indeed.
It was. All right. Well,
I'm
anyway,
glad you enjoyed that.
I think a lot of people enjoyed that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. I just saw this a little bit before we started the show, and we talked about the incident, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it a lot more probably in the next episode. But I wanted to be the first aviation podcast out there talking about this. Well, maybe one of the first. I don't know. A leaked French report says that the crash of Egypt Air 804, that one that crashed between, was it London or Paris to, I think Paris to Cairo, was likely caused by the cigarette of a smoking pilot. And apparently it's okay. They are allowed to smoke in the cockpit of their Airbuses. And they had said just a couple of days before the oxygen mask had been replaced on the first officer's side, and they think that perhaps it was leaking and the smoking whatever led to a fire in the cockpit, and they know that for sure, that there was some sort of a fire in the cockpit. But anyway, we'll have more on it on the next episode, I'm sure. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that. Oh, okay. Coffee Fund, Liz is saying. So let's jump over here to this and that. Jeff Smith.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh yeah, the Coffee Fund. It's your way, dear listener, to engage in support of the show financially if you have the resources to do that. And we have a couple of different ways for you to participate in the Coffee Bar Club and the Coffee Fund Cadre. The first being the original, the OG, the Coffee Fund Classic method. And since the last episode, Vignir, we believe he is in Iceland. And Vignir, thank you very much for your continued support of the show. It's a recurrent or recurring donation. The other way to participate in the Coffee Bar Club is to become a patron of the show via Patreon.com. And since the last episode, no new patrons. So there's plenty of room for you if you want to support the show by pledging a certain amount per episode. And you can specify like a maximum amount for the month. But we generally do 4 to 5 shows per month. So just keep that in mind. Check it out by heading over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. We will too. Just waiting for that shimmer to go away. There we go. So, you know what? Before we go to feedback, I would like to talk about an APG meetup. And so that's the next item there below the Coffee Fund. And David Lieb just, I don't know, maybe 2 hours ago, sent this in to the feedback email address. And it's audio feedback. So let's hear from David Lieb.
Hello, APG crew and community. This is David Lieb, leaving some feedback once again from the greater Boston, Massachusetts area. Just a couple notes on events of the past 2 weeks. First, Captain Jeff, thanks so much for making the meetup in White Plains happen. It was a real pleasure to see you again and meet Radio Roger, Felicity, Donna, and Ryan. Truly a great time. It's true. It's true. So that was fantastic that the stars aligned and I was able to meet up with you guys there. I was in the area that week. Next week, however, I was watching the Boston Marathon in Framingham, Massachusetts, which is about 20 miles west of Boston. And yes, Dr. Steph, I was the one at mile 6. Unfortunately, I think I may have gotten there a little bit later than I had hoped. I'm sure I missed you by just minutes, if not seconds. Wave 3 was rolling by as I got there, but I wasn't quite up to the front line on the course until I had been there for a few minutes. I met up with a couple friends and I created a little space and I was looking, but alas, I think you had passed me already, especially considering the time you said you ran. So congratulations on that. And I'm sorry I missed you. Would have liked to just give a wave or a high five or say hi or something. But hopefully another time. I will be at one of these points, should be back in the Charlotte area. I'm a very frequent visitor to the Charlotte area. So anyway, Captain Jeff, I think I saw that you may even have some layover time there next month. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm off to play with my country band at a food truck festival this evening. And yes, there will be a taco truck. And that's, of course, Taco the food, not Taco the dog. I hope Taco the dog is doing well, of course. All right, y'all. Lots of IPAs, smooth rides, tailwinds, blue skies, all that jazz. Peace out. See you later.
Peace out. Thanks, David.
That's awesome.
I literally just got that right before the show, and Liz said, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to play that in this show. I already had it in feedback for the next." And I went, "Nah." I figured, it's hot off.
Timely.
It's hot off the press, as they say.
Well, sorry I missed you, David. I'll just jump into that real quick. I knew there was someone who was going to be at mile 6, and I couldn't remember who it was that had said that. And honestly, at that point, I was kind of just like caught up in the zone of what I was doing, so I didn't
all about
even remember
you
until it was definitely me, definitely going through Framingham. But yeah, thanks for being out there, though. It doesn't matter whether you saw me or not. It's a huge boost for every runner out there to have robust crowds cheering them on. So thanks for coming out and enjoying the day. And it was, perfect weather for it. So hopefully you had a nice time.
Very good. And he is correct. I will be, or at least I'm scheduled to be, in Charlotte on the 19th of May. Yes, 19th of May. I don't get in until 4:30 in the afternoon. And, yeah, party for sure. Somewhere near South Lake.
South Park.
Or South Park even. Probably better directions if you put in South Park, not South Lake.
We have North Lake, but no South Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That probably has nothing to do with why I was confused. Anyway, and it's an early go the next day. But maybe we can have some sort of a quick get together early evening on that day.
Mm-hmm. And there's some good options right there at the mall area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of good stuff right around there. Go to the mall, y'all. But yeah, a couple of places that Steph and I have been, and they're all really, really nice. So we'll be talking about that as time goes on. Okay, so now would be a good time for us to transition to feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
I have a feeling that Captain Nick is getting a little bored or something. He's falling over.
He's falling asleep.
Looking at my notes for the feedback number 11. So.
Oh, okay. I thought it just looked like you were just passing out or something.
I promise I'm reading my notes for...
Yeah, exactly right. No, I was paying attention to the written hand of 40 years ago. Right.
All right. Well, in keeping in mind that it's getting a little bit late for you, and we want to make sure that we get this in because you've done some study on this feedback, let's jump to number 11. We'll start off with some feedback from Peter. And here we go. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, APG crew. I'm Peter from New York, and I have a potentially really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know that airplanes generally fly at, 30,000 feet, 35,000 feet, etc. My question is, why bother going up that high if it burns so much fuel to get up to altitude? Why not just fly around at like 10,000 feet? I mean, assuming there's no terrain in your way, wouldn't it be much more interesting, certainly for the passengers, to fly at a lower altitude? I'll leave it at that, and you can answer if you don't think it's too dumb. Bye, everyone.
Well, they say, Peter, that there is no such thing as a dumb question.
But we have
and
some
the
dumb
people
answers.
people that say that, though, they're wrong.
Yeah,
no,
they're
I'm sorry.
dumb.
Just kidding. Just kidding. No, it's a good question. And as I kind of hinted, I think that Captain Nick might have an answer, at least to your first question.
I took a look in my old Air Force notes that I used to take and had a look at range flying. Now, your question about I haven't started yet.
Oh, sorry.
It's a little premature.
Premature. Sorry.
Give me a break. Your first question is about all the fuel you use climbing. Yes, there is a point where it becomes counterproductive to use fuel climbing. But eventually, when you do get to altitude, the fuel you save usually makes up for the fuel you've used climbing plus. So for example, if you're on a long flight, you're always going to climb to altitude. If you're on a short flight, you might decide not to. That Air France flight we were just talking about that nearly flew into the mountain, they had a 40-minute flight. They only climbed 10,000 feet. That seems a little low to me. But anyway, you usually have that in your aircraft manual. But let's assuming we're going to be flying for range, so going for distance. And from my notes, it says here the economy of fuel, range flying is most important. It's the ability of an aircraft to fly the maximum distance on a given amount of fuel. The distance an aircraft can fly on a given amount of fuel, if all other conditions, including weight, remain the same, is known as the specific air range, SAR, i.e. nautical miles per pound of fuel. And specific aircraft range is distance over fuel, which is the same as distance divided by time over fuel divided by time, which is the same as true airspeed over fuel consumption. Now, in a jet aircraft, we can break that down to true airspeed over thrust times specific fuel consumption. And if we split that equation up, we get with true airspeed over drag times SFC, which is the same as EAS, equivalent airspeed over drag, times TAS over EAS times 1 over specific fuel consumption. So if we look at level flight, specific air range is EAS times over drag times TAS over EAS times 1 over SFC. This means that specific air range, the speed for the best EAS drag ratio, so that means flying at the best drag ratio speed for the progress you want to make. Bearing in mind, if you've got a strong tailwind, you'll want to fly at a slightly slower speed because that tailwind will carry you to your destination. If you've got a strong headwind, you want to fly at a slightly faster speed so you're in that headwind for a shorter time. The maximum altitude and the minimum specific fuel consumption. Now, I could go on. In fact, I probably will. Flying at high altitude. Now, although due to compressibility, the EAS over drag ratio may worsen, as you climb, your true airspeed becomes greater all the time. So your true airspeed over your equivalent airspeed ratio is always improving. For some altitudes, the band is quite large. You can afford to level off or change your speed. On some aircraft, it's quite specific. Now, if your specific fuel consumption is taken into account, the range speed falls into the band of 1 to 1.2 VIMD. The exact value is dependent on the design found during flight test, when this speed occurs at a Mach number which is just above mcrit, the max speed at which you get critical drag rise, which is obviously going to ruin your fuel consumption. Then the aircraft is at its optimum altitude for range. There you go. I hope that made sense.
Jeff, we can't even hear Jeff. That's how gobsmacked he is with that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I said fascinating. And you all miss Miami Rick? Huh?
There you go.
Nah, take that, Miami Rick.
Basically, the air's thinner up there. The engine likes thin air because it can get it in, a big mass flow. The air's not as dense, but because the temperature's dropped, that compensates.
Mm-hmm.
So some compensation and getting it in. Got it.
That's what she said. Yes.
Yep. There you go.
So
I have a dumb answer to Peter's very good question. Wouldn't it be more interesting for the passengers to say lower? No. Well, they all have their window shades closed.
Yeah.
They don't care.
How can you watch a movie with your window shade open?
Geez.
If it were a bunch of passengers like us aviation enthusiasts, then yes. But most people are not interested in what's happening around them and the miracle that they're experiencing when they fly from one place to another these days. But we sigh, a big sigh.
A.L. Shea makes a good point. Jet streams that we often use to help improve our true airspeed. It gives us very high ground speed. Doesn't improve your true airspeed. That remains the same.
You can fly faster than the speed of sound.
Exactly, but you're not really. I found at high altitudes, so generally found in the low 30s. So that's another good reason for being up there.
And interesting, we can see that in our flight management systems when we are flying here in the northern hemisphere from, let's say, Atlanta to Wichita, and the time of year where the winds are quite strong from west to east. You'll notice that the cost index, actually it has nothing to do with the cost index, or may have something to do, but basically whatever. Quit laughing at me, Liz.
Miami Rick can tell us about the cost index stuff.
Yeah, he already has. And,
yes.
Hopefully
and that stuck. It clearly sunk in.
Warning, Professor Robinson.
That I haven't kind of stirred the pot on that one. But what I'm trying to say is that with the winds in your face, as you mentioned, Captain Nick, is the fact that the airplane is going to fly faster and take longer to get up to altitude because as you get higher in altitude, usually the winds pick up in force. And so you want to spend as much time as you can in that climb in the lower altitudes going faster. And then the opposite is true when you're going back from Wichita to Atlanta with those high winds on your tail. You want to get right on up there as fast as right on up there in that tail wind to get that nice push as early as you can. And an interesting thing on the FMS, on the aircraft that I think probably all FMS systems have this, where when you're selecting your cruise altitude or going up to your cruise altitude and you hit the button that shows this data, it will say what your optimum flight level is and what your maximum flight level is. And you would think that they would be the same, but it's not always true. Sometimes on the shorter flights, and this is something they probably don't see in the long haul stuff, but the short flights, sometimes you'll see that the airplane can get all the way up to 37,000 feet. However, because it's such a short flight segment, and I think iHaul Boxes mentioned this earlier about a ballistic flight path, is that it may say that 23,000 feet is your optimum altitude, because that's the point at which you'd kind of be approximating a ballistic flight path. But anyway.
Well, even us lowly GA pilots look at that stuff too most of the time, because we don't want to spend too long going from point A to point B if we don't have to. So there's it's all the same principles and concepts. So that data is readily available to most pilots through something like ForeFlight, and you can look up and see what the forecast altitude or forecast winds are at different altitudes and use that to select what's going to work the best.
There you go. Of course, the box that is giving you all this information has to have good information that you put into it to begin with.
So I usually take a look too, if I get to the altitude that I've selected and I'm like, well, that doesn't seem right or it's not what was forecast, I'll pick something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying is a dynamic thing. What are you laughing about, Liz? For cows and flying, listen to this week's tale. Okay. He is teasing the tail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cow,
and
it's not a
we're gonna be
cow. Never mind. Move it.
But he capital. That's like is that an acronym or is that the actual?
You'll
livestock?
have to listen to the tale to find
I guess
out.
I guess I'll have to. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nick, for doing all the research and looking at your notes from.
I can't make head
1935.
or tail of them now. It's I used to know this stuff like the back of my hand. Really thought about it for so many years. It's actually quite hard.
That's what she said. All right, let's move on with this piece of feedback from Texas and LaShock. Greetings, Captain Jeff and APG crew. With the 1st of April, a lot of people are indulging in the traditional April fun. And he said we got it in before the end of April.
The end of April,
Just barely.
yes.
In this case, YouTube channel The Operations Room has done a video on an incident in 1986 where the USS Enterprise Air Group engaged the shadowy MiG-28 in the Indian Ocean in an engagement that nearly ended in disaster, if not for the skill and daring of one Lieutenant Pete Maverick Mitchell. I also discovered a video of what Top Gun would have been like if it were a British film, and instead of F-14s, they fly Harriers. Since they have a limited flight budget, they do in-classroom study, indoor volleyball, and tennis out in the rain. And everyone speaks with those bloody British accents. And while we're all sitting around awaiting Top Gun Maverick, I wondered if they have any plans for a third one, perhaps centered on Red Flag. It seems like it checks all the boxes Hollywood likes for its sequels: greater scale and scope, more characters, and an international aspect. And of course, you've forgotten losing incredible amounts of money at the box office. Anyway, hope you all had fun on April 1st. Did you fall victim to any foolishness? Yeah, I don't know. That was a long time ago. Can't remember what
That was like
happened
3
on
weeks
April
ago.
1st.
No idea.
I know. Yeah, if it's
I
more
don't
than a
think
couple of
so.
days ago. Yeah, we didn't even talk about April Fool's Day much, did we?
A lot of them are done by newspapers and news outlets. That sort of thing is pretty common. In fact, this country, because of the emphasis being placed on the conflict in Ukraine, a lot of outlets decided it would be a bit tasteless, so they didn't this year.
Let's see. I'm just going to play a little snippet of the funny film. I was going to play also a little bit of the serious film done regarding the danger zone in the Indian Ocean and the real life history that occurred and basis for the movie Top Gun. But let's just take a little peek at the British version of, or if the British had done.
Do you
Top
have
Gun.
to?
Yes, I have to.
Sir,
I must.
Sir, the bespoke post boxes have arrived.
Shut up, Atkins! We're trying to work out how to break out of this camp in a great fashion. Now, who has broken out the most?
No, sir. Bespoke Post. They're a monthly membership club delivering splendid boxes of top-shelf goods, many of which are from US-based small businesses, and it's free to join.
Well, we're not free to join it, unless that bag is full of useful tools.
Well, I should say, sir, I chose the split box, which contains this 17-inch field hatchet.
Brilliant! We can use it to break the beds apart. Useful for holding the tunnels up.
And then this cast iron skillet, part of the over easy box, sir.
Should I fast forward this to some flying, maybe? Let's see. Here we go. Here are the Harriers.
I lost him in the sun. What's he doing?
I'm going for missile lock. See if I can scare this guy out of here. I've got a lock.
This is real footage from the RAF.
Bingo! He's buggering out and going home.
He's not allowed to say that word.
I'm very sweaty.
That MiG is in a perfect firing position on Cougar.
Really? Seems a bit close to me. Don't worry though, he's just trying to frighten Cougar. It won't work, though. He's our squadron's top pilot. Our commander frequently says so.
He's got a missile up. Do I have permission to fire?
Don't worry, Cougar. I'm coming to scare this guy off.
No, you're gonna sing at him.
Okay. That's enough. He is the best pilot in the squadron. Well, at least the squadron commander says it often. Anyway, so there you have it. There are actually 2 parts. We'll have that in the show notes if you want to check out the British version of Top Gun.
Don't.
So I think Captain Nick is saying, don't waste your time on it.
Well, I found it a little cringeworthy, but I'm sure people would like to make fun of the British, so that's no problem.
Who actually did that? Was it a bunch of Americans?
No, they actually sound like Brits. So
okay, I couldn't tell if it was a real British accent or Americans trying to pretend.
They all wear the same uniform, so they've only got one jacket. Yes, they've only got one jacket, and they
didn't have a big budget.
No, they did not.
All right. You know what we're going to do? We're getting really close to that time of the show where we like to play the latest installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales. And Liz is saying, woo, he's keeping me busy tonight. And she doesn't mean romance. She means all the overlays that go with this week's installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales, entitled, hang on. Okay, yeah, she's getting ready, and so am I. I'm trying to find it. Here we go. You ready, Liz? No? Okay. Gotcha.
Good luck, Liz.
All right, here we go. This week's installment, entitled The Ugly Ducklings.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. The Ugly Ducklings. A listener warning comes with this episode in that those with heart conditions and keeping to a low sodium diet should listen with caution, as this tale needs to be taken with a large pinch of salt. The saying is an English idiom that suggests something may be misleading or unverified and should be viewed with skepticism. It is suspected to originate with the ancient Romans, specifically Pliny the Elder's Naturalis Historia, regarding the efficacy of a recipe for a poison antidote. Whilst we're discussing quaint idioms, many of us trust that old American adage, if it looks good, it'll fly good, attributed to both Neil Armstrong and Bill Lear, and is something that all pilots understand. There is something about a fine-looking aircraft that makes it appear trustworthy and gives one confidence that it will perform well. Sadly, I know of one company who seem to have looked at their aircraft through bottle-bottom glasses, or perhaps they just never got the memo. Whether the Short brothers were actually vertically challenged or not isn't made clear, but I can tell you that they started their aviation careers in the balloon business, where flyers of Lilliputian proportions might be an advantage, developing and manufacturing said lighter-than-air craft in Hove, Sussex, which I find rather amusing. The nautical term hove to means to hold in a stationary position with head to the wind. Since that feat is physically impossible for a balloon in free flight, perhaps they would have been better finding a place called crash land or similar. I digress. They built balloons for the British Army in India and for Charles Rolls of Rolls-Royce to compete in the 1906 Gordon Bennett balloon race. So far, only Eustace and Oswald were involved, but when they branched out into aircraft manufacture, they persuaded Horace to join them and were soon taking orders for gliders. By 1909, they had moved to the Isle of Sheppey, where they began building licensed copies of the Wright Flyer. It was here that they began to build machines in both large numbers and doubtful elegance, including a tailless twin-engine design, the Dunn D5, spelt with an E on the end, so for my Aussie mates, let's call it a Dunny. It would be wrong of me to claim that ugly aircraft came solely from the workshops of Shorts. At that time, hardly any of the boxy string and canvas flying machines could be described as beautiful. During the First World War, Shorts set to and created the Admiralty Type 184 for the Navy, which became the first aircraft to sink a ship with a torpedo. The gangly biplane had a span considerably longer than the fuselage, requiring a large vertical stabilizer to make up for the short moment arm, but the Royal Naval Air Service seemed happy enough to order 936 of them. The brothers' success required them to expand their business, so they bought a plot of land on the River Medway, not far from Borstal, a name famous for the prison and youth offenders institution which still stands there. Another site they obtained became home for a pair of enormous hangars when Shorts were engaged to build very long things, airships. Their work at Cardington proved successful, and they even built a local town for their workers, Shorts Town, where presumably everyone wore short breeches. After building such monster dirigibles such as the R-31 and R-32, the enterprise was nationalised in 1919, just in time for the R-101 airship disaster, ensuring that the Royal Airship Works, as it was then known, bore all the fallout. I have discovered that Shorts Cardington had a works magazine, appropriately named the Gas Bag, for all the airship and balloon enthusiasts out there. We leave World War I with the short S-38, probably for the best, and move rapidly on to the Second World War and the magnificent short Sunderland. Its predecessors, the Singapore and Calcutta, were similar to the PBY Catalina in looks, an aircraft I admire enormously, but I can't say I hold the Shorts version in the same high esteem. The enclosed cockpit looks like an upturned dumpster. It has a plethora of fins, certainly more than you would need to herd a herd of reindeer, and it sports open gun positions, presumably because all the poor gunners were taken from the other ranks and not the officer corps. The 4 Rolls-Royce Kestrel engines, mounted in long pods and fixed onto the wing struts, 2 pushing and 2 pulling, look strangely like an afterthought, as if the engine designer was late to the meeting and didn't get his point across. There were variations on a theme with the larger Kent flying boat, which, being a civil aircraft, did without the gunner's freezing hole in the roof, and added a couple of extra engine pods, but no more engines, holding Bristol Jupiter 9-cylinder radials. Then came the even bigger Short Empire flying boats, which had been ordered by Imperial Airways. This was a big machine, about the size of a sperm whale, although it looked more like a blue whale. The whale's wings, however, were considerably smaller, and with its additional weight it was rarely seen in the air, but both had blowholes, although in the Empire flying boat they were usually called the captain. Shorts flogged them to Qantas, and a few went to the New Zealand Tasmanian Empire Airways Limited, as well as Imperial, which was on its way to becoming the British Overseas Aircraft Corporation. As the Empire was being built, so was the Sunderland flying boat. I can't be too rude about the Sunderland, or my dear departed father will come back to haunt me, but here are a few interesting facts. It was originally intended for it to have a cow mounted in the bow. Having a cow in the bow may seem a little strange. Perhaps you think it was intended to moo during low visibility approaches or provide fresh milk for the captain's tea. But in fact it was a Coventry Ordnance Works 37mm cannon. In fact, the single cow cannon was not part of the final design. It ended up with 16.303 Browning machine guns, 4 fixed in the nose for the captain to play with, 2 in the nose turret, 4 in the rear turret, 2 in the dorsal turret, plus various beam and rear ventral flexible gun positions as well. If you didn't want the 303s, a pair of half-inch cannons could replace a couple of waist-mounted guns. In addition, it could carry nearly 5,000 pounds, 2,250 kilograms, of bombs, mines and depth charges that were run out on rails from the fuselage to hang below the wings. The Sunderland was broadly similar to the whale-like Imperial and supposed to be more aerodynamic, but in reality there was little to choose between them. However, the Sunderland had a much improved maximum all-up weight, 6 extra tons, and in addition it sported a twin kerosene pressure stove in the galley, a machine shop for in-flight repairs, 6 bunks, and a porcelain flush toilet. Like whales, it suffered from barnacles on its bottom, which sometimes got so bad it could prevent a fully loaded aircraft from getting airborne. The easy cure was to take the aircraft to a freshwater mooring for long enough to kill off the fauna and flora growing beneath its large waistband. The Sunderland was a most successful maritime patrol aircraft, and 749 were built and operated by many countries' air forces. I could say a lot more, but I have several less beautiful short endeavours to mention. Shortly before the start of World War II, Shorts moved to Belfast and teamed up with a shipbuilding company to form Short and Harland. Whether it was the new partner's influence or not, they were soon building bombers for the RAF, one of which was the Bombay. Perhaps the least said about that, the better, but then along came the Short Stirling. It was a 4-engine heavy bomber built to meet a strange set of ministry requirements, like able to lift off in 500 feet and clear a 50-foot tree, a maximum wingspan of 100 feet so it could fit inside a standard RAF hangar and carry over 6 tons of bombs 2,000 miles. The original design didn't meet many of those requirements, although its span was 99 feet and 1 inch. Its takeoff roll was so long it received considerable criticism from those who flew it. It was too late to change the wing's angle of incidence, so it was decided to extend the length of the main undercarriage, giving it a most ungainly appearance and resulting in its spindly gear contributing to many takeoff and landing accidents. It did, however, do sterling work, carrying up to 14,000 pounds of bombs, nearly 6.5 tons, for 2,300 miles, more than 3 times the usual load of the Flying Fortress. During the war, it delivered 27,000 tons of bombs on 14,500 sorties. 582 out of the 2,371 built were lost in action. Post-war designs by Shorts continued to disregard any desire to bow to aesthetics in their designs, even when entering the jet age with the Short Sperrin Gyron medium bomber. It also continued a myth that the Navy preferred blunt aircraft when it built the Short Seamew. The handling characteristics of the Seamew were awful, and although some improvements were made, Arthur Piercy wrote, "Only the Short brothers test pilot, Wally Runciman, seemed able to outwit its vicious tendencies and explore its latent maneuverability to the limit. Then, in the 1950s, came Short's long-awaited masterpiece. If you were going to build a new commercial aircraft, the shape of which was based on a caravan, a travel trailer in other languages, I can think of a few that might serve, like the Airstream. Indeed, the Airstream was based on a design by the man who designed and oversaw the construction of the Spirit of St. Louis, instead of which along came the short SC-7 Skyvan. Apparently, it was a development of the Hurrell du Bois Miles 106 Caravan. Why two companies would want to pursue this awful idea escapes me, but Shorts decided to build their own version and somehow managed to make a boxy aircraft even boxier. The Skyvan was a twin-engined, all-metal, high-wing, high-aspect ratio braced monoplane. Its box-shaped, unpressurized, square-section fuselage sported a pair of rectangular fins which made it easier to work out which way it flew, since the rear was pointier than the front. It started off with a pair of Continental piston engines, but moved on to a pair of turbo-mecha Astazoo turboprop helicopter engines, more in keeping with its speed range. However, the Astazoo was temperature limited at altitude, but who wanted to take this unpressurized cube over 10,000 feet? It's not clear, but some brave person established a service ceiling of 22,500 feet. Its maximum speed was 175 knots, but it was much happier cruising along at 150. With a range of only 602 nautical miles, it needed frequent fuel stops, but could land almost anywhere with a 2,000-foot strip. Rarely has an aircraft received so many derogatory nicknames as this winged box car, but the Flying Shoebox seems popular, as does the Two-Tailed Shed, the Horse Float, the Milk Carton, Winnebago, Box Car, Short Van, Box, Shoebox, Barn, Shed, Long Short, the box that the Skyvan came in, and my favourite, the Irish Concorde. The sales team either shrugged off such derogatory insults or perhaps embraced them, because 149 of this flying piece of garden storage were sold and operated in various government services in 22 countries. A number of them were also used by civil operators, most commonly to jump out of, which is quite understandable. Most people were probably very keen to get out. Two Skyvans were used in the Argentinian conflict over the Falkland Islands, one being destroyed at Stanley Racecourse by naval gunfire, and the other got bogged down on Pebble Island and was put out of its misery by a British raiding party. Argentina also put these simple aircraft to an appalling use in 1977 during a dark period in the country's history known as the Dirty War. The military junta used their Skyvans for the infamous death flights, where thousands of victims were murdered by being thrown out of the aircraft into the River Plate. On a happier note, Shorts didn't stop with just the Skyvan. It produced 9 different versions, which even included a deluxe all-passenger version called the Serial Box. The Skyliner. The Skyvan was developed into the Shorts 330 and 360, which even looked a bit pointy at the front. From the 360 came the Shorts C-23 Sherpa. There is even a Super Sherpa, and this quirky little aircraft, boxier than a Volvo, even found its way into the inventory of the US military, serving with the Air Force, Army and National Guard. The company that the Short brothers formed has been a very successful enterprise that went from balloons to missiles, armoured vehicles, and even an experimental variable geometry single-seat fighter, albeit with plywood wings. The pinnacle of their success, however, is summed up for me by the amazing pink Skyvan. There is a statue to remind us of the Short brothers' achievements at the site of their Muswell Manor factory on the Isle of Sheppey, which, interestingly, reminds me of a certain genre of movie wherein the population is resurrected to wander the earth in an apocalypse of zombies. Or perhaps that's just me.
Well, they say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I think you need to be a beholder with your eyes shut.
So I'm getting the feeling that Shorts Brothers didn't design really sexy airplanes out there.
I don't think they were concerned about how the aircraft, looked.
Very true. I mean, looking at their statue, if that's anything like their real selves, then I perhaps can understand. I mean, that is actually a real statue to commemorate the three brothers.
Well, the guy in the back doesn't look so bad.
No, he doesn't.
He's the good-looking one. They're trying to hide him.
Like, you stay back. Stay back.
Yeah.
We don't do pretty things around here. You're too pretty.
I mean, I did give that caveat at the beginning, but to be most of that was actually completely true. So, and from a sky jumper's point of view, I thought that pink.
Oh, the pink one's great. Yeah,
was great. Yeah,
I've got a couple
I don't know if
jumps out
it's
of a
still
Skyvan.
flying, but there are some pretty neat tricks being done there.
Yeah.
Is that Austria? What is that registration? Ooh.
I have to say, Nick, though, almost a couple of times per minute, I was thinking I should be playing the rim shot sound effect, because it was full of smart little quips, and I do and also enjoyed the one where somebody in a passenger in one of those earlier version of the flying boxcar were saying help.
How you spotted that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, she had her face in the window. I was just trying to imagine what she was thinking.
Help! Let me out.
I did just send you guys a picture of, I got to sit right seat in a Skyvan once when we had one at our drop zone. And actually behind me, it's my dad about to do a tandem help. That's great.
Is that the one you sent to us?
I
there?
just sent you, yeah. You probably can't get that pulled up fast enough. But
well.
Yeah.
I think I
Skydiver's get
can.
excited about it because jumping out of the back of the airplane through the tail is fun. You can send all kinds of
Yeah,
things
I can
out the back,
imagine
rafts
actually
and big
it would be
groups
very
and-
popular because
Yeah.
you get that, presumably that the back end just drops open or lifts up and you can just step off into the void. It must be fun.
Gainers, large groups all at once.
Yep.
Inflatable rafts with people sitting in it. Yep, fun stuff.
Getting down in a rubber ring, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
All right. I think I am just about there with that photo that you
Sorry,
sent.
it took me almost all of the plane tails to find that. I could not remember when that actually
There
happened.
we go. And then we just have to hit the share. There we go. Hey.
Hey.
There it is.
Skyvan. Yep.
Very nice. Very boxy.
That is it? Yeah, you can. You think it's just like a Volvo, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's the
No.
Sky Volvo.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, that plane tail was dedicated to Ivor.
Hugs and kisses.
Oh, because of, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
He has an enormous love for the Skyvan. So.
Does he?
Yes.
You know, it has a little bit of a cult following enjoyment.
Yeah. I believe it's an illness worse than the syndrome.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that is bad. Yeah, Ivor's got it bad as well. Poor chap.
Oh.
Well,
Yep.
we'll have to get the go around to Cyllin folks to work on some sort of suitable.
They still working on
cure.
it?
Well, they've perfected go around We need
Oh.
we need a new medication. We'll have to get some R&D going on the Skyvan affliction.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. I think thanks for that was a nice, uplifting, fun one. Thanks, Nick.
It was. I enjoyed the fun ones. It's a matter of finding a decent subject. Shorts provided it in, in excess. So marvelous. Thank you, Shorts. By the way, they were taken over by Bombardier, which means that they now have a sense of humor, obviously.
Yes. They have to have. All right. Let's, what I'm going to have to do on this one. I think I have to share the window because I just didn't want to go through all those different photos. Why is that?
Oh, look. Steph's given up. She's playing with her dogs now. Come on.
I can't get him out of here. He's decided that it's playtime, and this is the squeaky ball. Excuse me for just a moment.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Share screen. As Steph goes chasing the dog.
Yeah.
Window. Here we go. Okay. Let's continue with feedback. This is...
I got to go, Jeff.
Oh, okay. Well, then...
Yeah, it's
can't
well
you hold
past
it?
bewitching her.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I can hold it for this one if you want. If it's
No. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Go. I was pretending like you meant you had to go to the bathroom.
No. It's bedtime. I'm up in 6 and a bit hours now.
Oh, okay. Well,
Liz is waving. What are you waving for?
Yeah.
Liz?
Well, so
bye. Yeah. Okay.
She's waving, and she's probably wondering why Clean Feed is not working anymore, and I'll address that here in a second. But
right.
yes, thank you, Nick, for joining and staying as long as you could, and get some sleep.
All right. Thanks very much. Have a great show. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, let me get back here and restart StreamYard. Liz, for some reason, the laptop with this stuff on it lost the Wi-Fi. And but it looks like it's back now. Do you see me there in Clean Feed? Testing. I don't hear you. Maybe I have to... Are you trying to talk to me in Clean Feed? Yep. Okay. Let me refresh. Okay. Okay. Now I can hear you. Yeah. So. Okay. Thank you. I did not see that communication, nor did I hear it from you because of the fact that Clean Feed had crashed. Actually, as I said, the Wi-Fi had crashed for some reason on that. Okay. About 35 minutes until the end of the show, or less, if we decide. Okay.
Whatever you'd like. We've got a fair amount of feedback left here. Which one are we doing? 4?
We're doing number 4, and I'm trying to share that here. Add to stream. Okay, here we go. This is from Mazoots. I wish I could scroll that image in the screen share, but I can't. I got to go over here and actually go to that window and move it around, manipulate it. Stand by while I manipulate this window. Okay, Mazoots sent us this Mad Dog with its wings clipped, and it's a clip from, or a link to gizmodo.com. A quick link for Captain Jeff, a combination of an RV and a Mad Dog. Perfect. I agree. So, someone turned a McDonnell Douglas MD-88 fuselage into a ridiculous camper. And
ridiculous. Why would they say that?
Ridiculous. One of the weirdest things you can do to any sort of vehicle is to bolt the fuselage of a plane to it. Want a cooler boat? There's a fuselage for that. Want a more striking race car? Mount a plane to it. If you want to turn heads at a campground, a seller on eBay has an oddball idea. For the price of $62,500. Would you like to sleep in the first 12.19 meters of a McDonnell Douglas MD-88?
Doesn't seem like a terrible price.
No, it doesn't.
Of course, I'm not sure what you tow it with, but
Yeah, I don't either. And let me just say that I am not in the market for something like this. A lot cheaper than the RV that I do have in order, though. But I have slept several times in the front part of the MD-88.
not looking to repeat that. Not the most comfy.
That was in an upright position. This one was sent to me by our managing editor, Lolita Camello, and have to say that she knows exactly the kinds of RVs that I like. This is the writer of the article, and his name is Mercedes Streeter, or her name, one of the two. Let's see, I use that term lovingly here because I would so sleep in this thing on a camping trip. Let's just break down what you're looking at, because there's a lot going on. I love this photo right here. It shows the door. It looks like they just got that at Home Depot.
They might have. Yeah, I mean, why
probably
not?
did, or Lowe's. Introduced in the fall of 1980, the McDonnell Douglas MD-80 was a narrow-body, rear-engine airliner. If you've flown on regional flights on Delta Airlines or American Airlines in recent years, you could have taken a seat aboard one of these beasts. And now I've never seen one that looked like that.
Well, they've kind of mixed and matched the first class seats and the
and they turned around, made it kind of club seating. Is that what they call that?
Lounge seating, club
or
seating.
lounge seating. Okay. The MD-80 program launched in 1977 as the DC-9 Series 80. Boeing notes that they were also called the DC-9 Super 80. Yeah, that's what American called them.
Yeah.
As the names imply, the plane was a development of the DC-9. They are correct. I've mentioned many times before, I've never flown a DC-9, but my certificate, my ATP type rating is for a DC-9. Interesting. Anyway, and they did a pretty good job with their facts here in this article, I must say. Let's see, the Series 80 was larger with a higher maximum takeoff weight and greater fuel capacity. The planes also got technology and engine updates too. The name was changed to MD-80 in 1983, and then they talk a little bit about the 88 and the flat panel displays of the basic instruments, still in the basic, conventional six-pack layout. Anyway, that's interesting camper. It looks a lot like it was when I flew it, or flew something similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where do you
Where do you sleep? Oh, in the overhead bin?
I don't know.
Just pop those open, a little mattress in there.
I don't know. Let's see here.
I didn't see anything that resembled a bed.
Well, the
toilet is there.
There's
no
a
shower,
toilet
though.
and an air conditioning unit on the outside, but no shower. Let's see. Sadly, since the bathroom uses the aircraft's original lavatory, you don't get a shower. Another downside is this thing weighs in at 8,346 kilograms. Holy cow.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that means what? That's about 20,000 pounds?
It's heavy. Times
Wow.
2.2. Yeah.
That means you'll want something like a well-equipped Ford 350 or similar truck. The person writing this article knows something about RVs, I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
The seller had it up for sale on eBay last month. It failed to sell after 11 bids, totaling $38,177. The seller's buy-it-now price was $62,500. This is a huge wad of cash, but this is also a unique vehicle. I'm not sure if it's worth the ask, but I still absolutely love it, according to Mercedes.
I think this is one you would just park on your own property somewhere and never actually take on the road.
Like that guy that has a 727 in his background.
Yeah.
Backyard. I mean. Yeah. No, I'll pass. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm all set, too. It's
cool,
though.
I have. It is cool.
I do appreciate
it. It is cool. Thank you, Mazoots. Good idea. All right. Daniel sent us in some more links to videos, and we'll play a couple of them because they are very amusing. He says, Captain Jeff, I was listening to the most recent podcast when Aero Sucre came up. They certainly have a reputation for shenanigans in clapped out old airliners. It seems they do a lot of flying in and out of unimproved airstrips, perhaps a little overweight at times. I've attached a couple of videos for your entertainment. Thanks for the awesome show. And he says, Dan. All right, so I'm going to take a little extra time to share. I'm just going to pick the first one that I have listed in my list. So here we go. Let's see what happens.
Teniendo parámetros normales. Next, 118. Big one, rotate, 82. Get up!
Get up!
Bank angle, bank
I
angle.
thought that's what he said.
Whoa.
Get up, bank angle. Where are you going? What was wrong with straight ahead there?
Well, you
didn't see
gotta
any
you gotta go see some people here.
Well,
That's
yeah,
why.
for sure. The flyby.
Yeah.
You gotta buzz the tower.
Flying over the girlfriend's house. Yes, Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
right
look,
there.
it is,
That's
right
where
there.
she is.
Hey, get a picture. Get a picture.
Hey.
Yes. Hey, hey. Hi, Mom. Man, you need to, if you're just listening, you need to go watch the YouTube video for this one. This is
Yeah,
some interesting flying happening.
Immediately after the airplane broke ground, the thing was already in something that the systems didn't like. It didn't like the bank angle they were using.
A little bit of an excessive bank angle there. I
Yeah,
think.
a little bit.
Oh, we got to make this immediate turn, otherwise I'm not going to be able to see this house that I want to
For
see
safety.
and take a picture of.
Let's see. I didn't want to share screen. I want to do this. Share video. Let's see another one, shall we? This is fun.
I enjoy this.
Let's see. Let's do this one. I forgot what these were. Add to stream. Oh, it's a landing this time. 737. Exactly. He's coming in. Coming in. Oh. Oh, wait a minute. Door's open.
Perfect.
It's a freighter version of the airplane, and
The cargo door came
Cargo
open as
doors.
they touched down. Like the
Actually,
exterior, it might not have been shut in the first place.
it actually was before. Let me go to the beginning here. I know it's hard to see because it's not zoomed in very much, but I believe that the door is
Already
open.
open. It was
before
never
it
shut.
touches down.
Yeah.
Down. Yeah, it came open in flight.
It is.
Kind of see it
definitely
right
is.
there. Yeah.
That's an interesting flare maneuver too.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a flare.
It was a. Should we flare? Wait for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, flare now. Definitely flare.
Yep. Do it now.
Do it
Okay. Let me get the
Keep
next
going.
one.
I want to watch all of these. These are great.
Share video file and where's the next one? Here we go. Okay.
I see treetops through those clouds there.
Yep. But it's mostly just clouds.
It's
And he
mostly
just went to
clouds.
idle. He just went to idle on the throttles.
That seems
Okay,
like a good idea.
Well, I don't see anything. Do you see
I see
anything?
nothing. I see clouds. He's calling out numbers.
Okay, wait.
presumably.
Okay. Here.
Let's go back.
I'm going to go right at the beginning again. Watch the throttle quadrant.
Oh, I saw it.
Okay. And as you mentioned, there's some low
there's
terrain.
Some very low terrain there. Yeah, no, we don't need more power.
Let's
We've
go
got
to
plenty of
idle.
power. It's fine.
Yeah, just a bunch of clouds. I can't really make out anything but the reflection of his piece of paper on his little clipboard thing there.
And we're still in the clouds. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, now there's.
I saw some houses.
Houses, yes,
and
very
trees.
close, very close. Are they doing like the landing checklist still?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think so. I don't like, why are they not on the ground yet? Because wait, I see something sort of.
Okay.
A little like a hole in the broken layer.
Yep.
I'd say definitely broken.
Altimeter there.
I know.
Oh, it's a little higher than I thought, but still. Not
Maybe they were going
a
like
lot.
over high terrain
They
before.
might have, but still.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys just talk about this like in one of the first news items?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're still
in
looking
the clouds.
for
Still
an
in the
airport.
clouds. Occasional.
Oh, here's an airport. I see a runway. We're not lined up.
No,
lined up with it at
not
all.
lined up with it at all. Oh, there it is. Are they laughing about it?
I think. But they do the right thing, believe it or not. They decide
They go
not to
around.
try to land
Not
out
to
of
try
that.
Again, that must be like an NDB approach or something dumb. Yeah.
Could be, yeah. So that was interesting.
Probably just a VOR approach that wasn't coincident with the runway heading.
It could have been, yeah. And then finally, if I can find it, the last one is, that was a go around. No, I guess I only did 3 of them.
There's 4 in the. There's 4 in the.
I know, but I'm just trying. What's the one that I didn't play? Can you tell from the title on it?
I have to. Oh, it's another low takeoff from an outside perspective.
Well, I don't know why it's not in the video folder that I need to use. Oh well.
I'm watching it right now, but it's
not
exciting for anybody other than me because you can't hear it. But I'm assuming it's going to be very similar profile to the first one that we watched. Hold on, we're still taking off here. And it almost looks like the exact same runway as the other one.
It may have been the one. Did they make a sharp left turn?
They just barely got off the ground right at the very end of the runway. No, and then they continued straight ahead. So,
so it was different.
Not as they did use up most of the runway though, like most of it.
Yeah, I think that's a standard operating procedure for this airline. Use it all.
Aero sucre.
Or as I like to call it, aero sucker.
Oh, jeez.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank Dan before we move on. Thank you, Daniel. We'll have this in the show notes so you can watch them with your own popcorn and adult beverage. Because I'm
going to go back and watch it again. That was impressive, all of it, and not necessarily in a good way.
Exactly. All right, we're skipping to 13. I think you said, didn't you, Liz? Okay. Robert sent us a link to this New York Times article. Robert in Tucker, Georgia, passing the time with a piano-playing pilot. As a pilot with United Airlines, Bo Brandt flies North American routes. At every layover, he looks to play a mix of jazz, classical, and more for his crew and strangers. It's after midnight at Palm Court. Go ahead and put that one on at the piano if you'd like. In Cincinnati, and staff is trying to close. Lights are dimmed as the last of the martini glasses and beer bottles are scooped up. But Bo Brandt is still at the piano, playing for stragglers. Finally, a waitress gives him the "let's get out of here," and gives him the neck, cutting the neck sign. No, wrap it up sign. Probably a good idea since he has a flight to catch the next day and he can't be late. He's the captain. Perhaps there are other piano-playing airline pilots, but how many have cut 7 albums? Wow. Performed for a U.S. president and had an original song used by Oprah Winfrey. Probably not too many.
No.
Mr. Brandt, 41, has been playing and flying most of his life. He started on the piano at age 3. Wow. I think I was like 5 or 6. And was flying by 12. I was flying by 42. A pilot with United Airlines for 17 years. Mr. Brandt considers flying job number 1, but with every layover, he looks for a place to play, just for the fun of it. Regular performer now at many of his layover hotels, Mr. Brandt flies domestic routes from his home base in Denver to the likes of Madison, Wisconsin, yay, Raleigh-Durham, yay, and Jackson Hole, yay.
Okay.
He flies the same kind of stuff I fly, the short routes or medium routes. He still has the occasional gig back home. His house piano is a Yamaha Grand.
Ooh,
nice, but gets most excited about playing on the road for his crew and strangers. And he's fallen in love with the bar at Palm Court, a soaring Art Deco venue in the Hilton Cincinnati Netherland Plaza. The piano area reminds me of the Titanic's Grand Staircase. His sets are a rambling mix of jazz, blues, classical, and show tunes. His style features a flashy right hand and plenty of bounce, but no sheet music. He loves talking about his 2 passions. Typical pilot.
You want to know how you tell if someone's a pilot?
He'll tell you.
Exactly.
Or they'll tell you. She'll tell you. All right. So there you have it. Interesting. I think Robert asked if it was something that I would do. No, I'm not as good as this guy. Long way away from his talent. So I'd just embarrass myself if I sat down at the piano at a layover.
Just like Maverick and Goose. Sorry.
What'd you say, Steph?
Oh, I said just like Maverick and Goose. Isn't that what they say?
Oh, okay.
Let's go embarrass ourselves.
Yeah.
And they sit down at the piano.
Gotcha. I heard you, Liz.
I'm going to go embarrass myself with Goose. That's what Maverick says. That's sorry. Next to my
okay.
top
Gotcha.
quotes.
All right, number 14. This is sent in from Paul, Aussie Air Force, and this is from defense.pk. What's PK?
No idea.
Pakistan?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure. This man owns the world's most advanced private air force after buying 46 FA-18 Hornets. Oh, yeah, from Pakistan Defense. And this comes from, defense.pk, which is Pakistan. All right, so there's a picture of the gentleman, Don Curlin, has been flying for the airlines for the last 30 years, working on real estate deals, setting up the world's biggest skydiving meets, and building a private air force, the likes of which even he has a hard time believing is possible. Just last month, the War Zone was among the first to report that his company would be purchasing multiple squadrons worth of surplus Royal Australian Air Force, RAAF, FA-18 Hornets, like Captain Nick used to fly. In fact, he probably flew one of those, or did his? I think one of his went to the Canada. So I guess maybe that's not part of the deal. To be used in the contractor adversary air support role here in the U.S. Ooh. In that role, they would primarily fly against U.S. military fighter pilots, replicating aerial threats from potential enemy nations. So basically, they are bad guys for hire, but strictly for training and development work. Now, that the next the Liz that slide is showing, the slides that Liz is showing are we haven't quite gotten to that point yet in the article. Not only do we have the details on that purchase, which is even more impressive than it initially seemed, but we talked at length with the owner of Air USA, located in Quincy, Illinois, about his company's past and what is turning into a remarkable, if not downright historic future. Don Curlin imported his first foreign military jet, an L-39 Albatross, in 1994. And then since then, he has repeated the process dozens of times over and was the first owner of a private, MiG-29 Fulcrum in the United States. And there's a picture of that. Among a long list of other exotic flying firsts, he now holds 8 licenses with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, allowing him to own military machine guns and cannons, as well as thousands of rounds of ammunition to fire through them. He was also one of the early pioneers of the then fledgling, if not wholly experimental, adversary air support market. In the early 2000s, he joined forces with Airborne Tactical Advantage Company, ATAC. Oh, I get it, ATAC, which was blazing a trail with their contracts with the Navy to supply fast jet targets and electronic warfare pod-toting adversaries that mimic everything from enemy cruise missiles to fighters for Navy and Marine fighter aircraft and Navy surface combatants to train against. Anyway, basically what we're saying here, this guy is quite a wheeler dealer and obviously a type A personality. And I guess he gets bored easily because, man, I mean, just any of these things that this guy has done, that would be it for me. Wow.
Yeah, that's more than I can do, for sure.
Yeah, that's probably, Liz says, he probably doesn't have a podcast. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past this guy. Maybe he does have a podcast. Yeah. Anyway, so that's... Mm-hmm. They didn't say anything about singing in church in the article and doing a podcast. So yeah, he's got nothing on me.
That's right.
Anyway, so it's an amazing thing that this gentleman has put together, and a lot of interesting facts in this article. So check it out in the show notes.
It's kind of cool though. Get to be the professional bad guys.
Oh yeah,
for practice.
I've flown actually with a guy. One of my first officers a while back that it's not this outfit, it's another outfit. I just don't remember the name of it.
I'm sure there's various contractors that
but he's involved in this sort of thing as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see, number 15, Keith. From Little Rock, hope all is well. I love the feedback and discussion from Brad on episode 516 regarding hard landings. I think we can all relate. I'd like to share my own story. I mentioned on previous feedback that I am currently working on my sport pilot certificate. In January, I reached that major milestone of flight training and was signed off by my instructor to solo. Of course, after getting my endorsement, I wasn't just going to sit at home while a perfectly good airplane sat in the hangar. So I spent that next weekend determined to fly and perfect my landings and maneuvers. That Sunday, after having flown the previous 2 days, I was brimming with confidence as I took the Cessna 162 up for what I planned to be a nice morning of pattern work and touch and goes. After 4 decent landings, in retrospect, I don't think my flying was particularly great, I lined up for what I planned to be my final landing on runway 22 at Conway Regional Airport, Kilo Charlie X-Ray Whiskey. Winds were light, sky conditions clear. After crossing the runway threshold, I pulled back the throttle and flared. Unfortunately, my flare was too high, and I really had not managed my speed well. The plane landed very hard in the mains and immediately bounced right back into the air, then came right back down, almost on the nose gear, then bounced back up, and then down again, this time landing nose wheel first. And then somehow I was able to get the plane under control and taxi with my tail between my legs off the runway and to the ramp. After a few seconds of WTF, my heart rate started to calm down. The plane seemed to taxi okay off the runway, so the wheels and struts must be okay, I thought. But that was definitely enough for me, so I headed for the hangar. It was then I saw what I'd really done. I know now I had entered into a porpoise landing where the plane sets off into a series of jumps and dives, which usually ends with landing on the nose wheel and often causes nose wheel collapse and the dreaded prop strike. That's what I did, folks, to the perfectly good airplane I started the day with. Ouch. I've attached a photo of the prop. Go ahead, Liz. There we go. Ooh.
Oh,
as I put the plane up, something seemed odd about the prop. And after looking again, the tips were bent and twisted. I don't think I've felt that sick to my stomach before or since. My flying career just ended before it started, I was sure. My first call was to manager of our flying club. I was actually pleasantly surprised about his response, first wanting to just make sure that I was okay. After assuring him that I was fine, the next words he said were, "You know, you can always go around, right?"
He sounds like he's familiar with the song.
Yeah. We then called the owner of the plane, who again was so generous. He first just wanted to make sure I was okay, and then assured me that's what insurance is for. Just happy you're okay. Wow. Nice.
Nice. Yeah, nice people.
The aviation community never ceases to amaze me. I had just caused his plane to be grounded for who knows how long, and their only concerns were about my well-being. I did learn, thankfully, that a prop strike is a non-reportable incident, so at least it wouldn't be on my record, except for logbook, where I have duly noted with several sad faces. Aww.
That is the appropriate entry.
Yeah. Of course, the final call I had to make was to my CFI. Yeah, was not looking forward to his call. He didn't answer, so I sent him a text asking him to call me and letting him know I had an incident landing that morning. It seemed like hours before he called me back. When he did, I related the story. There was a brief pause, and then he says, "We worked on go-arounds, didn't we?" We ended up having a great conversation. The club manager and my CFI were absolutely correct. The second the plane bounced so high back in the air, my reaction should have been to hit that throttle, get her into ground effect, and then climb out to try it again. I bet you all know the theme song that runs in my head every time I line up on final now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in our heads all the time, too.
Yep.
I guess I should play it, right?
Play it.
Okay.
I mean, this is a great excuse to play that song.
Absolutely. And here we go. Go around. Don't like. Oh, I must have shortened that up. Sorry. So sorry for the long story, but I think it illustrates several good points. I was so discouraged that day that I thought maybe I should just hang it up and flying wasn't for me. If it wasn't for the plane owner, my club manager, and my CFI continuing to encourage me and recount their own stories of bad landings, I might have. I've even become close friends with the owner, who I had not met before that day. So for all the student pilots listening, there will be times during your training you'll make mistakes and get discouraged. But remember, everyone goes through it, and you'll be a better pilot for your mistakes. That's for sure. In other news, after I grounded the Skycatcher, I moved over to training in my instructor's Tecnam P2008, a beautiful plane, and we are close to getting my check ride scheduled in a few weeks. Yay! And I took the ultimate plunge and bought one myself.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, look at that. I'm now the proud owner of a 2009 Tecnam P2008 registration, November 208 Tango Alpha. My instructor and I flew it from Hanover, Virginia to Searcy, Arkansas a few weeks ago, and I'm now using it to finish up my training. I've attached a couple of photos as well as myself in the left seat on the flight. Cheers, and hope you all enjoyed my own mea culpa, so to speak. Keith. And there's a picture of him with his flight instructor, I think, or someone.
They look very similar. Is your flight instructor your brother?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, maybe they were related. Maybe this is just, they were flying from Virginia
No,
to,
on the flight. That's with his instructor. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
You guys just have, very similar.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that, you know what, though? Everybody looks like that in Arkansas because they're all related. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Ouch. I did not say that. Just,
ouch.
Keith. No, a couple good things here. Yes, first of all, I'm glad that you got that great response from the club, the owner, your CFI first and foremost. Yeah, you got to make sure the people involved are okay.
Yeah.
Airplanes and airplane parts and things can either be fixed or replaced. That's certainly possible. But I'm glad you got back into flying right away too, because I think a lot of people, when something like this does happen, get, like you said, they get discouraged to the point where they just don't continue, and then you live with a lot of what ifs and just doubt about your abilities, and that's not good for the long term for a lot of reasons. So, congrats to you to getting back at it, and let us know how the check ride goes.
Yeah, and maybe
airplane's really nice.
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful airplane.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That Tecnam 2000. I guess, is that a light sport?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
very nice. Yeah, very pretty. Very sleek. Let's see. When did he send this in? I'm trying to see how long ago it was. April 19th. So I guess he probably hasn't taken his check ride yet.
No, it was just a few days. That was a week ago. So
hopefully he'll follow up. And thank you so much for sending that in, Keith, because it's great advice and great. You're a great example for a lot of people just to keep the stick to itness.
And these things do happen, and we often don't hear the stories of people
right.
Continuing on afterwards and sharing their experiences when things aren't so perfect. So thank you.
What I always think of when I think of stick to itiveness or just sticking to it is and this was a few years back on the show where we covered the incident where I don't remember, it was some kind of a high-wing Cessna, I believe, coming in for landing, and then a car was going by and they hit the car.
The top of the car, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing flipped over, and I mean, basically crash landed.
Wasn't it a student pilot in that one too? Yeah.
Yeah, and he continued to fly after that. He continued to take lessons. I think it was like one of his first flights, and I'm thinking, well, I'm sure he's never going to do that again. But yeah. I mean, well, probably not that again.
Not that actual type of incident, but continued.
But he kept flying, which was amazing to me. Oh, what does iHall boxes say? Experience is the sum of our mistakes. Yes, very good. That. Okay, and he's not joking around this time. All right, it is now time for us to wrap it up, and that means we're going to point you over toward the website, airlinepilotguy.com, where there's lots of stuff there. And I'm not going to go through it. You've heard me say it many, many times. And if you haven't been there by now, well, shame on you. Yeah. Taco.
That's Truman. Truman wants you to know.
Shoot. Truman is upset with you if you haven't
Actually, now
gone
it's
to the
both
website.
of them. They're both upset. It's very distressing to my dogs if you have not been to the website.
It is. It is. So check it out, airlinepilotguy.com. And we're also on the social media things.
We are indeed. You can head over to facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. We're also on Twitter. We're at APG Crew. And you can find our individual Twitter handles pinned to the top of that page. Instagram, we're APG Crew there. And I actually did try to go onto Instagram and put some of Nick's artwork on this last time around. And then I discovered that since whenever it was that I got my new phone, my phone did not store the login credentials for the APG. So even if I had wanted to, I need to get those login credentials from you again. And
that sounds like a very plausible excuse.
Well, it's a good excuse, except I would have had to have tried previous to this time around. I did not know that I was logged out of it.
Ah, okay. Well, I'll give. Just remind me.
Okay.
I'll probably not remember.
I
need to send them to Nick Camacho too. I keep forgetting to do that. But not only are we on the the standard social media things, but we are also on Slack. So let me say hello. Can you tell us about Slack, please?
No way, Jeff. I'm social distancing.
All right, then we're not going to find out about Slack this week. But fortunately for you, I have a recording of him telling us
APG
about
listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Hang on. Still 15 seconds to go.
That's okay. We went ahead and played the recording of you talking about it. We'll just wait till next week. All right. And we also want to thank our producer, Liz Piper, in Toronto. Thank you for everything you do. I can't tell you how much it means to me and the rest of us here on the APG Crew and to the community. So thank you, Liz, for everything you do.
My pleasure.
All right. And that means it's time now for us to finally say, have a great week, a great weekend, and hope to see you here next week. Wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Beauty.
I tried to cut you off there, and I'm not sure why. I knew you weren't finished saying what you wanted to say.
Huh?
Out of practice.
You
I was just
tried to
going
cut
to say
me off?
goodbye before you were finished saying goodbye.
Oh. Well, that's okay. Yeah, I thought it sounded like great timing to me.
Okay.
I hate that thing.
Okay.
You know who that is?
No.
I hate that thing.
Oh. The Jetsons. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So someone posted this the other day that apparently in 2062 was the year that the Jetsons purportedly was taking place. And George Jetson was a 40-year-old dad at that point, which means he would have been born this year.
Oh.
So we're getting closer to flying cars.
I'll be dead. I'll be 111.
Oh, no. I'll be 80.
Anybody got any great titles? I'll tell you what I've got here. None of them are great, but anyway. Who stole the cognac?
Who stole the cognac?
Mountain Ahead.
Okay, Mountain Ahead. Okay.
Mountain Ahead.
The one they almost crashed into.
Yeah. Mad Dog Camper or Mad Dog RV. And that's about all I have. I couldn't.
I did like, I don't know if it could be a show title or not, but I'd like I Haul Boxes. They took it for granted.
Yeah, taking it for granted. He's got it back.
Taking it for granted.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Taking it for granted.
How's he gonna?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
that's up to him.
There. Oh, look at that. He even he thought it was a good idea for a show title as well because he put that in
Posted
just
it again. Yep.
as I was saying it.
There it is.
Taking
I
it
like
for granted. Get Jip Wizzy with it. So we're kind of stuck on the flying into in the mountain thing here.
Clean feed. I think that I don't know how he's gonna do that.
Clean feed. Yeah.
Yeah. Premature evacuation.
Swinger pilots. Premature evacuation.
I'm not sure how you. And with Nick, that's dangerous.
That's dangerous
a giant blue pill somewhere in that.
I'm not going to say anything.
Well, tell me what to send him. I don't know. Do I send them all and let him choose?
Yeah.
Okay. He's not going to like
7 deadly pilots and 7 deadly. Well, he never does.
No.
Yeah, usually what happens if Nick leaves early and we send him a bunch of show title ideas, he goes, I hate all of them. And then he does one
something
of them.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, but but most of them happened before he left. So most of those suggestions, I think, refer to.
I like taking it for granted.
I do too, taking it for granted.
Okay.
And then you could like have an airplane.
I'm going to tell him that's the
granite.
one. And then if he complains, I'll say, well, here's some others. Oh, look at Mike Kuiper's. That's a great one.
A fit of pique. Not sure. Is that a saying that I'm just not familiar with?
Yeah, it's usually a fit of pique, like Pique, like you get peaked.
Oh,
like,
so that's why I didn't think it was funny because I've never heard that.
I have no idea. That's
went off in a fit of pique. I like it, Mike.
Well, Mike Kuipers lives up there close to Canada, so he must share some of your.
Jeff and I are
his wife's Canadian too.
Ah, that's true. Yes, she is. Denise.
Okay, I'm going to send him fit of taking it for granted, and then he can go with that.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us on middle of the week, and we have no idea when we're going to be recording again next week. We're going to start the process, though, as soon as I do this. I'm going to end the stream, and we're going to talk about it. So thanks for sharing your time with us. Bye.
Cheers, y'all.
Adios. Bye.